Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Tetracast. This is RPG Site's weekly podcast where we get the site staff together to talk about our favorite genre of video games. We once again have a packed house in here today. I am Brian Vitale. Let me go through who's all here with me today. I've got George Foster.
Hello, everyone.
I've got Josh Torres.
Hola, mi amigos.
I've got Adam Vitale.
Hello, my friends.
Sorry. And I got James Glizio.
Hey.
And Cullen Black.
Hello. This time I'm not coming to you from a PS5 controller.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, last time we had I think the same six of us here. Cullen was unknowingly recording through his PS5 controller instead of the microphone he thought he was speaking into. So go back a couple weeks and listen to that and criticize him harshly.
Please do. No, our power went out right before we were going to start, and then Discord said, "You want this on your PS5 controller, correct?" And I guess I was in such a rush. I said, "Sure."
Next time we're going to record all of us through PS5 controllers.
That's a fun gimmick, though. Don't knock that. Let's hold on to that.
So last week we had a bunch of big news about a bunch of big series, ranging from Final Fantasy, of course, to Pokemon, to some not as great news about some Western RPGs like Anthem. So this week the theme's a bit different. We're going to be talking about a lot more smaller niche, mostly in the JRPG space. So obviously that's our specialty. Maybe is that too high horsey? I don't know, but a lot of little niche, fun, smaller games that we'll be discussing this week. I guess we might just go right into it. Some of these games have released in the last couple of weeks. We spent about 30 minutes last week talking about Bravely Default 2. And I know over the last 7 days, several of us have just been working through that.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if anyone has like an immediate thing that they want to blurt out about.
I didn't get
Bravely?
to mention this. Yeah, I didn't get to mention this last week because I was like, we were barely like talking about prologue and chapter 1 and stuff. But I didn't get to mention. My progress has slowed down to a crawl because I've been working on another game we'll talk about. So like I barely completed chapter 2, starting chapter 3 now. But I was talking with Alex Seedhouse last week about about the game, but I just forgot to mention that like a good chunk of the side quests in this game really suck. Like there'll be there'll be a lot of side quests even early on where it's like you're trying to rescue this person that's in a dungeon because their wife's worried about them. And then the wife's like, bring this to him. He's working. He's like, bring this sandwich. Like, okay, bring it to him. And he's like, oh shit, I don't have a fork. Can you give me a fork? I'm like, are you
that
serious?
one really stuck out to me too.
I think that was deliberate, though.
I think the very first side quest I did in Bravely Default 2 was the one where the mom was like, hey, can you look for my son? And then you go talk to the son. He said, oh, I'm not going to move. And so you go back and she's like, it's all right. Thank you for talking to him. It's like, why the fuck is that a side quest? Why is that a side quest?
Yeah, it's frustrating because you're like, okay, you go back to the wife. Oh yeah, his fork. Here you go. And then you go back and like, thumbs up, dude. Go say thanks to my wife for me. Like,
most of the time, I feel like because there are a lot of side quests that say, hey, go from point A to B and do it maybe like 4 times. Usually they're in cities where that's like a bit more fine, but that one in particular stood out to me because it's like I really have to go through this and I have to go to this entire dungeon and back every time.
Yeah.
I will.
Some of the side quests really piss me off. But I like the ones that actually have like it goes to
the
like
voice
a scene.
acting.
Yeah, there's a scene.
Yeah,
there's actual characters in it, and it relates to your party.
I was gonna say those really stood out to me, and I that's why I'm mostly fine on the side quest because whenever that happens, usually it offers really important character moments, and I like that it makes you kind of work for them.
Yeah, there are some good side quests, but really they're the ones that specifically have like cutscenes in front of them.
And they should. So basically, less should have been more. They should have cut out like 50% of the chafe.
Pretty much. I don't think anything would have been lost if they cut out those extraneous side quests, because there's already enough side quests with like character moments and whatnot in the game. I don't necessarily think those like fluff filler needed to be there.
But also, one thing that's another weakness of them, I feel kind of bad that we just jumped out the gate to say, time to criticize Bravely. It's still a very fun game. We did
I just forgot to mention the sites. Like, oh yeah, the side quests were some of the side quests are really rotten in this game, though.
We put about 70 minutes of just gameplay footage up on our YouTube last week or last Thursday or so. And we were talking about how we really do like the UI of the game, just in general, like the storybook feel and just like how it's presented and how it flips from menu to menu. With the exception of that, the like side, so the side quests are all like numbered and ranked in difficulty. It's very clean, like when you get them, but there is no like good log of them, which is weird because there's a good log of monsters. There's a good log of all the weapons that you've gathered and all the armor that you've gathered. But if you want to look back, like which side quests have I completed? Do I have any gaps? Instead of giving a list of side quests, it gives you like a list of memories. And it's just like a big long list like
of cutscenes during the side quests.
Yeah, no categorization, no categories, no like accordions. It's just a list. And like, these 4 memories are the 4 cutscenes for this side quest. And then it goes into some random other one, not labeled, not numbered. It could honestly be better.
I thank you for bringing that up, because as someone who did all the side quests, that was absolute hell. It was miserable. It basically required me to go to every town and look at every single inch and just comb through that world. It probably added like 10 hours maybe to my total.
You gotta stand out. Go ahead, Adam.
Octopath Traveler, only that was even worse. Octopath Traveler side quest, the NPCs didn't even have like colored speech bubbles or anything.
Oh my god.
And it was awful. Like, I remember in Octopath Traveler, you'd basically have to just talk to every single NPC in every single town and just like, because sometimes it wasn't clear, like someone else would mention like you have to go somewhere else to some other town, but then you might not even have unlocked the town yet, and hours later, how are you supposed to remember it? Anyway, that's a tangent.
My favorite part about Bravely 2 is like, all right, time to wait outside the town until nighttime and then go back in.
God damn it.
Yeah, there's so many things like that.
I guess to provide context to people who haven't played Bravely Default 2 yet, is that you can get different side quests depending on the time of day in that game, between day and night, as the like new NPCs might pop up in town with a different side quest that's only exclusive to night or something. And there's no toggable thing like in Xenoblade or something where you can change the time of day at will manually. You have to like stand around like literally outside of town, just stand there, walk around, run around, maybe do some battles, just waiting for day to turn to night, and then go back in. And then like every new chapter or like every new event has a chance of like giving you a new side quest, and you wouldn't know unless you're following a guide or something. But you just don't know when new side quests will pop up, because the game will never indicate to you, hey, like if you go back like to the starting town, a new side quest has popped up there. It will never tell you that. It's just you have to find out on your own through that method.
It's only like 3 minutes, but still, from a series that jumped out, back with Bravely Default 1 as like trying to put quality of life at like the forefront and convenience with the way that they toggled like random encounters and things like that. It feels like that's a missed opportunity here, where there isn't just a wait option.
And second took the quality of life even further. So it feels weird that it's like for every step forward, there's a step back. And it's a very strange kind of thing. I'm wondering if the lack of quality of life is kind of because of the pandemic in a way.
Yeah, it's probably like a manifold number of reasons. Pandemic, different developer, things like that.
Because I was thinking like, wow, if they had like more time to iron this out, it probably would have been like from like in my opinion, in like an 8 to a 9 of just like from just the gameplay alone.
I also, man, all these rumors like of like the Bloomberg reporting out like there's like a new Switch model that will output or 4K or something. Like I really hope that whenever this new supposedly more powerful, capable Switch comes out, that older titles get like a bump in performance or anything, because the this game's technical performance just really bums me out sometimes. Like the amount of stuttering I've witnessed through like the dock mode, and like just sometimes just especially after getting out of battles, it has like maybe a 50% chance to like just stutter just a little bit, and like
so I've been playing this game through a capture card just so I could easily like take screenshots. I know a recent Switch update made it slightly easier, but just so I could easily drop them into a folder on my PC. And I was getting that stuttering. I'm like, is my capture card bugging out? And so I played it on the Switch handheld for a bit, and I'm like, oh nope, that's just the game. And then I've actually grown to really like the art style of the game. I know people said like the game is just ugly, and that's fair. That can be your opinion, but I've enjoyed like how the monsters look, how the cities look, like a pop-up book. But then like you go into battle and they do like this in-battle cutscene where the resolution is super blurry, or you go into like there's like a desert ruin dungeon in the first chapter. And like not only is the resolution blurry, but there's like a depth of field effect that's probably applied too liberally. And on top of that, I think there's like a heat haze effect. Like all those things combined, I'm like, man, looking through like a foggy window into this thing. So those things wouldn't be fixed by a stronger Switch, but at least get the resolution and frame rate.
I do like there's you mentioned the visuals. Like I do like there's like kind of like a weird like diorama effect in it. It especially stuck out like when you go to that first canyon area in the prologue, when you're going through that and you have to go visit like being very vague, you have to visit a grave at an elevated space, and then you see the clouds moving in the background. It's kind of like a neat moment, small moment right there. It's like, oh yeah, these visuals are like really fit this game well.
There's one moment in one of the cities where you end up going on. This is a tiny minor spoiler. Skip ahead 30 seconds. One of the cities is like covered in like branches and thorns and thistles, and you go up on one of the branches and you like go way into the foreground, and you see like the big pop up. It gives you like the whole panoramic view, like actually while moving your character and not just by pulling the camera out. And I was like, man, this looks pretty good. It's cool design here. So Colin, tell me about Bravely Second, because you brought that up, and I've heard you've been playing through that after your time with Bravely Default 2.
So I was Bravely Second is probably, I always loved the game when it first came out. I never finished it. I will say now it's probably my favorite 3DS game. I like everything about that game just feels like a direct response to what I did not like in Bravely Default. I love the main cast. I love the tongue-in-cheekness of the writing. It very much understands what it is as a sequel to Bravely Default. And it's just, the job system is amazing. I think it probably has the best jobs in the series. Just there's so many unique and creative jobs. Like, oh, okay, so there's a black mage, but also there's like a wizard, and there's like a new version of a white mage, but they're better and they do different things that still make the old ones viable as maybe sub jobs. Like the wizard class will like, it can apply effects to spells. Like you could do like, I want this spell to do a mist effect where it'll attack everybody for damage like every turn. I want like a hammer effect, so which is basically like a big physical hit, but with magic.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one of the things that stuck out to you on Bravely Default 2 was honestly I don't really enjoy the Black Mage class in Bravely Default 2, because it's your standard, hey, here's your fire, ice, thunder spells, and then you just keep on getting better versions of them. While like in Bravely Second, they mentioned like that class is like more modifiers, like how you cast spells and how you actually like what effects would you like to apply on spells rather. And I think that's a more interesting like class design for me personally.
It does feel like a waste of opportunity that like 6 of the spells that you unlock on Black Mage are like aura spells or Aga spells, and then they're like, here's poison. Like, can you a few more like that, I suppose. I will say though, poison has actually been really useful in Bravely Default 2. Don't overlook it.
Yeah.
It's
especially
also really
with Beastmaster.
It's also really hard to land on hard mode. That's what I'll say. God.
But I've been playing through Bravely Second again and try to finish it, and I'm just so impressed with how fun it is and how enjoyable the story is, how enjoyable the characters are. You and Magnolia are just like so charming, and I think even the returning characters are better. Like Tiz feels way better as like a supporting character than the main character.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
That's something I've mentioned a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bravely Second has a very kind of Go ahead.
It's just that I haven't played Bravely Default or Bravely Second, and I was going to ask, like, how tethered or how connected are they? And apparently, very, if they've got returning characters acting in
It's a direct
supporting roles.
sequel to the events of Bravely Default 1.
It's weird. Okay, so it is a direct sequel, but in a way, you can kind of jump in on second with just a bit of knowledge of the first game. Because I didn't finish Bravely Default when I jumped into second, and I like when I first played through second, I stopped, of course, but I understood everything that was going on because the two of the main party members are new characters. One of which he was just being a book geek out somewhere else, so he just didn't have time for the events, and one of them was on the moon, so they didn't know exactly what happened, so they catch the audience up as well. It is definitely a game where you'll probably know and appreciate more if you played the first game. But honestly, like there's a really good Clemps video out on Bravely Default that just catches you up on the entire story. So if you want to just jump in a second, you can watch that. But I love like we were saying earlier, like Tiz works way better as a supporting character, and there's a really fun dynamic there with him and you because both of them have like traumas related to losing one of their brothers, and you can see kind of like a very interesting like surrogate brother situation working for both of them, which one of the villains even calls out, and that's like really interesting.
That's one thing I will say that always kind of struck me a bit odd about Bravely Default is that it didn't really go too into detail about what happened with Tiz at the beginning of the first game.
There's like a big issue there it was one of the reasons why the story never vibed with me is have you guys played 4 Heroes of Light?
Yeah.
Anyone here?
Yep.
I played it.
Okay, so you know how in the beginning of that game you have a very standard RPG structure. You start in a little village. You can choose to walk around and talk to everybody, or you could just make a beeline to the main story. When you come back, you're like, oh my god, everyone's turned into stone. Well, if you took the time to talk to everybody, then maybe you might feel something. You might care that like, oh, all these people like grew like it's a little thing, but it makes a big difference.
Default, yeah, it skips all of that.
Yeah, in Bravely Default, you get a CG cutscene, and Tiz is looking out on his village. He's like, "I'm Tiz," and then the village gets destroyed and his brother dies, and that's it. That's literally all you get. And I've grown to be less nitpicky about that, but I still think it is a big missed opportunity to not have it so that you got time to walk around your village as Tiz, talk to everybody. You could see that relationship with his brother, and honestly, you could have even used that opportunity to, show off the gameplay mechanics.
That reminds me of something in Final Fantasy V. Well, actually, Colin, how far have you gotten into 5?
I think I just finished the water crystal stuff.
Okay.
So I'm 2 crystals in.
Yeah, you're like
pretty early.
Yeah.
Game. So I won't say anything then.
I stopped playing it to focus on 2 of the other games I'm going to be talking about.
Before we go on too far, Adam, you wanted to mention something earlier that
I was just gonna parrot on what Colin was saying about Tiz. I also think in Bravely Second, but Bravely Second kind of has, love it or hate it, it kind of has like this kind of jokey tone to it throughout, and Tiz kind of works as like a straight man.
Oh
like,
yeah,
he's just kind of like the plain face, stone face, doesn't really get the jokes sort of guy, but it sort of works.
It works, yeah.
He's just kind of genuine and nice, and he's just like, he's not as goofy.
It works, and also like, but he's not like stoically that all the time. Like he'll tease a bit when he like needs to, but it's never mean. Like there's a lot of detail to how the characters are written, and I really feel like a lot. Like I've always felt the game was overhated, and now playing it like all these years later, I really just like. I'm looking through, I'm playing, and I'm like, wow, people just really did not give this game a chance because it does so much right.
This was
Explain to me
interesting.
why is it hated?
That's the thing. This was interesting to me because even in a recent like Famitsu interview with Asano, who's been with the Bravely Default series, like he had to like. He had to apologize for Bravely Second, and I was like, and that always stuck out to me. Like, I don't know why the Japanese audience never warmed up to Bravely Second. Like, what happened in the development or in the game of Bravely Second that like really turned off Japanese players to it.
So I don't want to get into. Oh, sorry, George, for cutting you off.
No, I was gonna say I've been pretty silent this whole time. But with anything like an artist, well, that sounds a bit dramatic, but yeah, no, any creator should never have to apologize for something, unless obviously it's like rude or offends. But
see, that's the weird thing is that it seems like I don't know the specifics, but it seems like he's apologizing for someone else's work, and that's where the rudeness comes into play.
Yeah, that's weird.
But like, the reason why people didn't like it in Japan, at least the one reason we all know of, I'd like to not spend 1 billion minutes talking about this because I'm pretty sure many of us have heard it before, but it's the whole side quest thing and how they were changed. And the Japanese version got essentially, well, you could say more thematically appropriate. It just wasn't fun, and they fixed up a lot of the side quest stuff for the English release. But I think people just didn't like the writing and the characters. And I've always kind of felt that like when it came west, people just kind of heard that the Japanese fans didn't like it, and they just kind of assumed the worst.
I also kind of feel like a part of it kind of relies on this is kind of a specific thing, but if you like Ring a Bell or not. Because some people really like Ring a Bell, so that he's not really that present in Bravely Second is a down point. But if you don't like Ring a Bell, his absence is a plus.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't care for him.
Yeah, it's weird that one character would be a make it or break it for some people.
Although I will say, I'm trying to say this without like, well, Alternus is still in Bravely Second, and he's absolutely adorable. And it's really funny that you take this stoic Dark Knight character and basically make him the errand boy for the entire world.
Yep.
Like he's running around like helping like old women with their groceries and like all this stuff, and he's so gung-ho about it. And it's like this game I have had a smile on my face for like 95% of it, and for the other 5% I've just been genuinely like my emotions have been attacked, because it knows. That's the thing, everyone says like it's too silly, all this stuff. The silliness just makes the serious like story stuff hit even harder, in my opinion, because you already care about these characters. And then so when the game is finally in like, all right, here's the baseball bat to your heart, it's like, all right, well, you shattered it, good job. But we should probably move on from Bravely.
Well, you mentioned speaking of like serious story, I just wanted one last comment, is that Bravely Default 2 in Chapter 2 really gets quite dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought it was gonna like pull back at the end and kind of like tie it up in a nice like fantasy, like, oh, and then everything was fine, bow. And speaking very generally, it doesn't. It's bleak, and it kind of has a bittersweet conclusion to that part of the story. So I actually liked that it went that far and it didn't chicken out.
That's what I like about Bravely Default 2, is while I do feel it plays it safe with a lot of the more outlandish Bravely things, the story is very dark, and it's that kind of good dark I always like, and I kind of miss from that older era of RPGs where they could get away with a lot of stuff as long as they didn't show anything.
Well, they're not too scared or too apprehensive to make the player sad or feel like. I feel like a lot of games nowadays are like, well, we don't want anyone to feel too down about this, so we're gonna cushion the blow in some way or the other. And here they don't really do that. It's not like overbearingly dark, but they just allow it to be bittersweet and just allow that case to linger as you move on from that chapter.
It's darker.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Like, I mean, have you finished Chapter 2?
I beat the final boss of it, and I think I'm moving on to Chapter 3, but I haven't seen the Chapter 3 title card yet.
Okay, so the thing you discover right before you fight that boss is insanely dark. Yeah. And Chapter 3 matches that, if not kind of goes further. Chapter 3 is probably my favorite chapter in the game. It's kind of weird and like creative that they went that way, and it kind of plays off of like fan expectations in a fun way as well. But I like Chapter 3. It's really good.
I'll probably be getting into that right after we finish recording this.
Heck yeah. So, George, how's Persona 5 Strikers?
I love it. It's so good. I'm so happy. Like, whenever you've talked about Royal in the past, Colin, like specifically you, because you are the biggest fan. I've always been like, I wish I could talk about Persona like you do, like that, because I really love everything about it except for the combat, and not even really combat. Like I still enjoy the combat because I put 70, 80 hours into the original. It's just it goes on and on. The Persona 5 and apparently I guess Royal 2 because it's even longer. And I didn't enjoy the dungeons. There were just a lot of things about it that didn't strike right with me, and I think I need to go back to it. I think I definitely need to go back. Maybe just do Royal. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. If you're going to replay Persona 5 after Strikers, like not only will Royal like just be overall a better experience, it might even go as far to like fix some of your issues with the combat, because it's like while it's a bit of an easier game, it's just a better game.
Yeah, it's just the length thing. I think I feel pedantic about this, but I
get you.
I'm at about 35 hours into Strikers, and they've done the whole I can now confirm they did the whole like the end of the journey, and then like no, it's not. It's definitely not.
Oh yeah,
and I've got way more to do by the looks of it. And because it's like it's doing this now where it's done the sort of like fake conclusion, but there's more to it. At around the 35-hour mark, I can't see it going on much longer than maybe like 6 or 7 hours more, and that's fine.
You're definitely near the finish line.
Yeah,
like,
you're almost done.
Yeah,
and I've loved it. I've genuinely it's. I think I say this every week. I say this every week when I've played a new game. But this is one of my favorites of the year so far. And
good.
Yeah, like Little Nightmares is there, Hitman is there. Like there's loads on that list so far. But
what about Werewolf?
Reeled me in. Don't talk about it. We don't talk about Werewolf.
Well, Josh was saying exactly this when he reviewed the game, was that because of its structure, Persona 5 Strikers like almost has like a better kind of flow and pacing to it. It kind of also comes along with like more almost like a larger like cutscene density though, or voice acted cutscene density.
Yeah.
But it's still like in terms of pacing, doesn't have all the like the calendar social link stuff. So it's just go ahead.
I'm mixed on that, where I miss some of the social events in some ways, because there are like little moments where you can choose like which character you want to do this with, and it's only happened twice for me, and some of them are like a group event or whatever, but I miss that. And in terms of the way it's structured, for the first maybe 15 hours, I was there like, is it going to do this every time? Is it going to do it every time where one of these jails like conveniently lines up with one of the party members and like follows some of the things that they learned in Persona 5? Because I can't really be bothered to do 8 versions of that where each character has that.
I love that.
I was fine with it for the first 2, and I was like, it's just predictable. But then it kind of stopped doing it so obviously. At least in my recognition, like they don't go. Not one character steps forward and says, "This is like what I've suffered through." Like it is more unique, and they go to some smarter places with it. Obviously, I'm avoiding saying some stuff.
Yeah,
Josh also said that. I really hope
they go to the brink with it, like you saw like a recognition of it. But the way they switch it up, like maybe
they switch it up before it gets grading.
Yeah,
completely. And I don't know if I can even say this, but that when you get about halfway through the game, you get another playable character. And I don't know whether that's a spoiler. I don't think so unless I went further into it.
He's in the opening. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, when I saw him in the opening, I was like, what? And I love that character. I love that character and what they do.
Oh yeah.
I think that character essentially has like one of like the best awakening scenes throughout the games, and just like the top to bottom, both persona and the outfit is like 5 thumbs up.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good.
I think the hardest part is, and I talked about this last week with how I felt about Persona 5. Like, so I was saying before about how nostalgic I was for Persona 5, like going into Strikers with like all the characters talking, the music's kicking back in. And now it's the opposite effect, where I'm reaching the end of Strikers and I'm like, damn, I'm sad. I am sad to be leaving this little universe, and screw Persona 6. I want Persona 5 too. Persona 5 Strikers
Persona
2.
5
Persona 5 too.
Persona 5 free, then do it. Like, I
agree.
And it makes me sad because like Persona 6 is gonna have a lot of baggage. It's gonna have to really have some good characters to compete. And I haven't played any of the Personas because they haven't really been available. Like, give me Persona 4, put it on put it on PS5, I'll play it. But
Yeah, it's,
so
it's
far,
funny. It's
put it
funny
on
that you
Switch.
mentioned that because, like, I wonder if they're gonna go like the Persona 4 Arena Ultimax route, where they have a follow up to the spin-off. So it'd be like a Persona 5 Strikers 2, and then that's
I
when they
wouldn't complain.
and then that's when they incorporate like the new characters from the added update of the original game, like in Arena Ultimax. That's when they brought Marie as a playable character. So maybe that's when, if they do a Strikers 2, that's when they bring Kasumi.
Give me Kasumi and Akechi. Just give me them. If you give me Akechi, I will never play any other character in this game. I just want Akechi. I miss him so bad. I miss that. I miss that fucking garbage can. I need him.
He would be a fun add-on for sure. I love his winter outfit in Royal. It's so
Oh god, in Royal, in the new content, he is such a bitch. I love him so much.
I was very concerned. Yeah, this is pretty worth it.
Robbie Damon, that's like the performance of his already amazing career. It is so good.
Yeah, his demeanor throughout that new content is you should it's worth it for the journey, George. You should just do it.
No, yeah, Royal is and when I said earlier that Royal will probably fix your problems with the gameplay, it's because I don't want to say they overhauled it, but they added so much to the combat and they tweaked and fixed so much. Like 50 hours in, I was finding new stuff.
50 hours.
George, yeah, George right here is 50 hours. Like, oh, it's only 50 hours in, George.
No, but I'm saying like you're fine. You're just like that's a good thing in my opinion. Pacing wise,
I know, but
because
he's always concerned about the length, basically, not necessarily like the breadth, like the content, the quality content.
Yeah, I get you.
I'm so crotchety about it. It's like every time the game's long, I'm like, ugh. Like even if I really enjoy it, like even like say like Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out, yeah, whatever, Kingdom Hearts, whatever. But if
100 hours
that
long Kingdom Hearts,
100 hours long, I wouldn't be happy with it. I would still be like, oh.
George, I'm sorry, but you signed up for the wrong side. You signed up for an RPG.
Yeah, no.
I don't know how to tell you this.
I'm feeling Persona right now. I'm listening to the music outside of playing the game. I'm very like I'm watching YouTube videos of Persona 5 memes, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's time. It's time to go back into Royal. So I finished that dancing game. I finished the dancing game for the main game, and that's just peak me, isn't it? That's Yakuza 6 before any of the others sort of me thing.
You brought up the music, and I want to bring something up that I totally didn't notice until recently. So, apparently they recorded a brand new English version of the Strikers credit song.
Yeah, yeah. That's
which
copyright surprise too. I was like, oh,
yeah, because I was listening to it, it's like, oh yeah, I was like, wait, this is different. This is what's different about this? Because I was listening to the soundtrack on my own for like a year, and I beat the Japanese one, and I'm just like, wait a second, did they they got Lin to record a new version of this during a pandemic? That's kind of like, that's a power move.
Yeah, you guys are crazy.
Because it sounds great. And also just like the localization of Strikers is amazing, and the dub is really good, especially when you can considered it was recorded all during the pandemic.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah, they basically stated a few months back that the pandemic was why it took a year for it to come out over here.
I imagine the pandemic combined with the fact that they needed to make a PC port was probably why it delayed it so long.
Like all the work concerning like audio design, the voice actors, audio engineers, and all that stuff, like during a pandemic where you have to be apart, it's a miracle that it comes together.
And like the PC port, by the way, is actually like pretty good. But I've noticed that for whatever reason, I'm kind of lucky with PC ports when other people have problems. And I think if you go to the Steam page for Strikers, people do mention like crashing issues. But for me, it's been so I've played like 10 hours of this, which is probably not a good idea because I haven't played Persona 5 at all. But I've enjoyed it a lot. It's just, I don't know, it's got a fun combat system and it shines at it's a high frame rate on PS5 as well. But I
think I'm gonna wait until I get a 4K monitor to play P5S because I just got a new GPU, so I should be able to push it 4K 60. So.
And then I always
it'll look like 1080p.
In previous podcasts, I feel like we've almost done this game a little bit of a disservice by like mentioning it in the same breath as Age of Calamity, which of course we were going to because the similar, same developer, similar style of game, at least on the surface. I'm not saying Age of Calamity is bad. It's just that game is much more jumping between menu and battlefield, which is
I
not
think you're
Persona
being a
5
little bit
Strikers at all.
unfair. I think you're being a little bit unfair to Josh. Actually, he pretty
I
much
kept
said
pushing
several
this.
times that it's not like that at all when he talked about it.
Well, I guess I had to experience it like firsthand because I kept like compartmentalizing them together in my head because they're.
I
like,
think it's
back-to-back games
impressive that
from that
Did you listen to
Um,
what Josh said?
I needed to call it out on the
firsthand
podcast.
Thank you, Adam.
I think it's impressive that that Age of Calamity was seemingly developed and released after Persona 5 Strikers, and it runs worse on Switch.
It runs like crap.
That game runs awful. I'm a lot less positive than I was on my review now, because especially now, replaying Strikers, I'm like, Strikers doesn't run the best on Switch, but this is kind of embarrassing because this is like AAA Nintendo money.
That's what put me off. I started not to go into the tangent, but I started it. I was like, yeah, more Breath of the Wild is gonna be ace, and literally instant. It sounds petty and I say it out loud, but like the frame rates made me go like, ugh, like Switch Pro. Maybe I'll come back to it.
Okay,
But
soon
Now
enough.
we have two
Then
reasons for
hiccups.
Switch Pro brought up in this podcast.
Persona 5 Strikers just like looks at Age of Calamity and just like sneers at it because this is like amazing. I'm
So you're playing on Switch?
No, I'm on PS5.
Oh, okay.
I thought this
Apple
earlier.
storage is a little bit.
I was doing this. I think I said this last time where I skateboarded into a bunch of enemies, and that was awesome. There's a later bit where you can like you use like a shopping cart or something to skateboard into people. I'm like, they love it. And I was thinking, I was like, I wonder how this runs on Switch because there are a lot of enemies on screens. It's not like Warriors level for most of it, but there are, there's a good amount of graphic effects in that. So, is it 30 frames on Switch, Cullen?
Yeah, it's 30. It hits 30 more often than not. Near the end, it starts to drop frames a bit more. But honestly, just being able to play a Persona game on the go is just that's good enough for me.
Yeah, imagine what that's like. Persona 5.
Like, oh god, it's really funny because I've seen people like be really dismissive at the idea of Royal coming to Switch and like looking at Strikers, like how it is a little rough looking on Switch. I play it on my Lite, so it doesn't bother me as much. But it is very weird how dismissive people are of like Royal not coming to Switch or not looking good if it did come to Switch, and it's like, well, we already have a test case for Royal on Switch, and it's Catherine Full Body, which looks and runs astoundingly good.
I forgot that came to Switch.
It's kind of the best version. It's weird.
Oh,
Because they add like, well,
for it, yeah.
because all the DLC is free, so you get all the character stuff and you get 2 extra voices for Catherine. It's like it's literally like the best version of the game.
By the way, there is an Atlas survey right now about which sequels to existing series you want on other platforms, including Mega 10, Persona, Etrian Odyssey, and which ports for existing games do you want on Switch, such as Persona 5 and 13 Sentinels.
And they've done that sort of question on previous surveys that they do every year. They've done it for a few years now. It looks like they're really getting, they're thinking about porting pretty much anything.
bring the Etrian Odyssey series to
Please.
PC, man.
Save Persona Q2. Save it. That game is so good. And it's just that art style is ruined. Not ruined, but it sucks that you have a game that looks that good artistically and it's just on the 3DS low resolution screen.
Yeah.
But Persona 5 Strikers is really good.
Yeah, I loved it. I'm really glad that you're enjoying it, George.
Yeah,
I'm
stunned, honestly. Like, it's not. I wouldn't call it a 10 or anything like that, but I'm just stunned at like how much I'm into it. And if it carries through, and I suddenly start playing Persona 5 Royal again, then holy crap! Because I've been avoiding that for like a year.
Did you ever beat Ys 9?
Yes, yeah, I did, and that was
I'm surprised.
he reviewed it.
yeah.
For
Crap.
for who?
I did that for PlayStation Lifestyle.
Cool.
And then I started Ys 8 and I got like 7 hours into that and I was really enjoying that. So, oh man, I forgot. Okay, damn. Okay, I have to choose between them. I'll get back to you guys.
I was thinking recently, I was like, so we're starting the year off with Persona 5 Strikers and Atlas has a bunch of more games coming out. and I'm like, there's certain to be unannounced stuff as well, but like this is kind of Atlas's year. Like, if you think about it, because we have the Nocturne remaster coming out, we have SMT5 coming out, and that's already 3 games, and those are all good games. Well, like SMT5 is probably going to be good, but it's like
I imagine they're
Safe
also
bet.
going to be like an Atlas game PC port. Type strikers.
I would not be surprised if we're playing Royal on PC and Switch this year. Like, I genuinely would not be surprised.
Market.
Man, I don't know. It'd be so weird to see Persona 5 Royal running at 60. Like, I'm trying to think about it in my head. Like, that'd be
My
really
brain
cool,
would
but-
explode.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I'd probably get that on both. Like, if it came to Switch and PC, I'd get it on both. I'm looking for an excuse to replay that whole goddamn game again. And honestly, playing it on Switch would just be like so comfy and perfect.
Josh needs a reason to play it through like a 5th time.
Oh my god. Another Persona 5 playthrough. Let's go.
Right now, though, I'm just kind of like really excited for Nocturne. Like,
Yeah, I want to try Nocturne.
because they're still putting updates out, and I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be so good when it hits the West.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, especially, when people like data mine that game, and then they saw like there was like a branch of Steam on it on HD Nocturne HD remaster. I'm like, just do it, just fucking do it,
Just do it.
But the context there for anyone who's not in the know is that HD remaster came out for Nocturne last year in Japan. It's slated for spring this year. It was absent from the Nintendo Direct, so news any day now. We were starting to get a bunch of release dates for like the next 3-4 months, and that one should be inbound soon.
Hopefully this month we'll learn more about it.
So obviously we spent a good chunk of the opening here talking about like the big 2 RPG releases of February. But a game also came out last week that was a bit of a surprise that I think Josh and Cullen have played. So tell me about, I'm going to pronounce this wrong again, Gnosia?
That's how I've been. Oh, is it Gnosia?
I think it's Gnosia. That's what I think. But
In
it
the
I've been
trailer,
calling it
they actually
Gnosia.
said Gnosia. In the
Gnosia.
trailer.
Really?
I can't do Gnosia. Okay, this
Gnosia.
this requires a bit of setup of like how we speak about this game, because it kind of has like rules to it.
Yeah.
But I guess the big overhead view to connect with our audience is like, imagine like if the Mass Effect characters played Among Us, essentially.
Oh, I was waiting to see. All right, who's gonna say Among Us first?
I'll do it. But it is much more akin to the classic werewolf game, because unlike in Among Us, like where there's not really like roles attached, except for like an imposter, this one has more in-depth roles. So in this game,
it is also worth mentioning that this came out before the big Among Us popularity spike. So before anyone's like, so they just ripped it off, and no.
And plus Among Us is based on existing properties too. It's like werewolf, mafia, like those concepts and types of games have existed before Among Us, people.
Paranoia,
Yeah.
Please go outside. Please play other games.
Yeah. So in this game, you're essentially playing these like Among Us rounds, essentially, and where you kind of start in the middle of like a discussion with your other peers. It could be up to 15 people in general, but you make a character and you're having this discussion, and it is all set like in a spaceship of sorts, and you're discussing just on the get-go, like you're kind of plunged into the middle of it, or you're kind of lost, and you're talking about who to send to cold sleep, and it has to be a consensus among your peers of like who to send to cold sleep, because in this game there's two, you're trying to suss out who the Gnosia are. Exactly.
Bitch.
That's what the Zoomers say, man. I got to connect with them.
George, are you connecting?
Yes.
All right, good. It's working. Then keep it up.
Now.
So the like in Among Us, like you're trying to find the imposters to like put out the space shuttle. This one you put them to cold sleep. So you're all kind of doubting each other, like, I think it's this person, or I think it's this person, and obviously people will cover like, no, I think this person's good, and then there'll be like 5 rounds of this, of like you going back and forth, suspecting who could be a Gnosia, and at the end of those rounds, everyone takes the vote, and then whoever has the highest amount of votes, gets put into cold sleep. And if there's a tie, there's like tiebreakers like revotes and whatnot. And so
there's also fun things that can happen where it's like if there's a tie, if there's like a tiebreaker vote and then it's still even, you could put everyone to sleep, or like both people to sleep, or all 4 people to sleep, however many, or no one to sleep, so no one actually like gets voted out.
Yeah. So those are like the fail safes as well. Like you can like reach consensus of like whether to put all the candidates to sleep or not as well.
It's surprisingly thought out for like an indie team. Like they're like, while some of the logic stuff and the AI is very weird, like sometimes characters will suspect people and then immediately defend them. Like the programming's a little weird on that. It is there's a lot of stuff in this game.
Yeah, so I'm trying to go like let's go a little deeper then. So after like these rounds end, like obviously another round will begin until either the humans win or the Gnosia win and whatnot. And in between these like discussions, you can go like very briefly like around the spaceship, like just menu driven. Like you choose who you want to visit and whatnot, or you can go back to your room and choose to level up. Because in this game, you actually have like RPG stats, and these stats are charisma, intuition, logic, performance, stealth, and I think and charm. And all of those, like the game does a really good job like breaking down like what these affect. Like in performance, the higher performance you have, the better you are at lying, because you can actually take the side of the Gnosia in some of these like loops, we'll call them, like these discussions.
These raging loops.
Yeah. And obviously charm will make it so like people will go along with what you say, and stealth.
Sorry.
It's all right. And stealth makes it so that you're less likely to be targeted, because in between these discussions, every night the Gnosia can choose to take out one person in their sleep, but only one in between, never more. So let's say like we've either the humans or Gnosia has won this round. Now, when this ends, that signifies the end of a loop. So now you time travel back, and now a new loop starts
with completely different characters and different like it. One thing I'll add on to maybe add some clarification here. Each loop of this game takes like 15 minutes.
Yes, it's a very pick up and play.
It is very gamified, which at first I was like, oh, so there's not a lot of characterization here, which isn't true there, but it's kind of like, because the whole purpose of the game in like the grand scheme of things, like, yes, you could use it as a simulator to have fun werewolf missions, but the end goal is uncovering every piece of information, because you have a little list of everybody and there's like question marks and you have to fill out and like figure out who you're hanging out with, is figuring out who everyone is. Yeah, and you're going to need to go through a lot of different loops to do that. And what's really cool is that you get essentially, you can customize your experience to look for all this stuff. You can choose, do you want to play as a Gnosia, a crew member, an engineer, which is essentially like,
we'll get into those. Yeah, we're about to get at this. So, after you complete one of these, it signifies the end of a loop. And then so you time travel back, and like as Cullen mentioned, the whole mystery of this game is essentially, like you said, there's like 14 other unique characters in this game, and they all have like, you have these mysterious notes, and then like as you go through loops, sometimes you'll get into an event with them, and sometimes either these events you learn something new about them, or they can actually teach you like a skill where you have to like meet a stat check to like uncover the skill or use
which are
skill.
Super useful. Like,
yes,
there's so many skills for so many different situations. Like, it's a very like it comes across initially as a very like bare bones game, but the more you play it, the more like skills and abilities you get to like talk your way out of situations. Like, if there's enough evidence, you can literally call someone out as a Gnosia, and they're like, "Well, fuck, you got me. All right then."
So imagine like in a traditional RPG where you have like, the standard attack, defend thing, and you have like a special skill like healing or doing fire damage. In this game, it's literally like conversational skills. So let's say someone says, "Oh, I suspect you," and you have the skill exaggerate, and it's like you're basically like making a hyperbole, like how the danger of this person that they called out. It's like, oh, people are more susceptible to vote for that person because they're like, oh, maybe you're making a good point about the hyperbole that you just made. Like there could be a risk to this person, or like say someone tries to like suspect you, and you can like kind of make like a baby face response, like kind of like regret or like a whimpering response of like to get people to sympathize with you, like, oh no, don't.
And you can even
person.
retaliate.
Yes, or you can retaliate. So that think about those skills in that game, but in that manner instead of like traditional RPG skills, it's like conversational skills that you would employ during like a debate, and that's how they gamify it. So
it's straight up an RPG. Like
yeah.
it is. There's I would even go as far to say it's probably a really good introduction, quote unquote, visual novel, because it is mostly game. Like it is a logic puzzle that you're doing the entire time.
Yeah, it's all like like logic deduction essentially. So as Colin mentioned, like at the start of these loops, eventually, like within the first 20 loops, like it'll be a tutorial like slowly teaching you these mechanics. It's a mechanically dense game, but eventually you'll be able to tinker with your settings in between each loop. And the thing that really makes this more intricate than, let's say, like an Among Us, but it's more akin to like a standard werewolf game, is there are actual roles at play that you can switch on or off in between. And to run down these roles briefly, is there are engineers, and there can only be one of these at a time, but there are certain like exceptions to this. There could be an engineer who at the start of or any time during a round, like report like, hey, due to my findings, this one person I can identify, I can tell you is either a human or a Gnosia. A doctor who can say, hey, the person that we put to cold sleep, yes, like last round, they're either human or Gnosia. There's an AC follower, and this stands for anti-cosmic follower, and that's a whole world thing. Where they're human, but they support the Gnosia's cause, and that allows them to lie. So both AC followers and Gnosias have the unique ability to lie. Humans cannot lie, like crew members, engineers, doctors, they cannot lie, but AC followers and Gnosias can lie, and so they can lie. They can pretend to be other roles. So a Gnosia or an AC follower can come out and say, "Oh, I'm an engineer. Oh, I'm a doctor," and whatnot.
And they can manipulate the course of like conversations and throw off like the trail off of like actual Gnosia.
Yeah, and this gets complicated too, because when like someone says, "Hey, all engineers, please step up," like there can be one or two or three, even three engineers that
I've seen
up.
4.
Oh, really? Oh, both.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
In this, because for fun little context, so I've been playing this game I've been playing a bunch of this game. I was on loop 150, and then I somehow saved over, or like I think I did, like I accidentally hit new game when I wasn't looking and saved over my file. So I've been replaying it. Basically, I stayed up until 6 a.m. playing this, and on this time around, I found up to 4 engineers at once.
That's crazy.
And because I think and because I don't know if you were building up to it, but there's one more role which is really fun that they kind of throw in there to add more spice into the whole werewolf game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bug.
Yeah, and the bug role is think about if people played werewolf, it's like the fox in werewolf, where the fox doesn't really care if the Gnosia or the human win in this. It's one of them meets an ending condition and the bug is still there, and then therefore if the Gnosia or human win but the bug wasn't put into cold sleep or eliminated somehow, then the bug wins, because they're like the X factor, the things that shouldn't exist in this loop. So what the bug actually does, if they survive till the end, whether Gnosia or human win, they just destroy the whole universe.
They essentially take their ball and go home.
Yeah, so that's the crazy part, and that's how you would like take care of bugs, is much like how Gnosia would eliminate humans in their sleep. Engineers actually have to like observe a person who is a bug, or either engineer has to observe a bug, and then that's how they squash them. It's like, okay, you're neither a human or a Gnosia. There's something wrong with you, and that's how the bug gets eliminated.
So like you'll wake up from like a night into a new like round, and like 2 people will be gone, which means the engineer found a bug.
Yeah, the Gnosia eliminated one person, and the engineer eliminated the bug. So that's how 2 people can be eliminated.
Oh wait, and there's also Guardian Angel. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Oh yeah, and the last role here is the Guardian Angel, and all they do is they can choose a person in between rounds when everyone goes to sleep at night, and they can choose to protect one person from a Gnosia attack. So if a Gnosia attacks the person that the Guardian Angel so happens to choose, they won't be able to complete it. So there'll be night rounds where it's like it'll say no one has been attacked or no one was eliminated, and then you'll go into the next rounds, and then that'll signify to you that 1, there's a Guardian Angel in this game, and 2, they chose right and they were able to fend off the Gnosia attack. And that's kind of like where the real meat is in this game is you choose how you modify your experience, and also how you gain events. And as Cullen and I were saying in this game, like obviously what you want to do is try to win each loop, but the grander objective in this game is whether win or lose, you still get experience points after each loop. Like if you lose, that doesn't mean that you get 0 experience. You still get something out of it, but obviously if you win or you last longer, you get more experience points.
And you're always building, basically like Josh saying, you're always building off of your experience. You're always like every failure is still like most games with this kind of iterative structure. Each failure helps build off of like more future successes. And what's interesting is that unlocking events is not as simple as win the round. There are specific events or like specific things you can do where sometimes you'll have to lose the round. Sometimes you'll have to collaborate with this person and then maybe lose the round or win the round. Sometimes you have to collaborate with someone who ends up being a Gnosia. Sometimes you have to because I know SQ, one of the characters, has 2 different events on making it to the end with her if you've collaborated with her as a Gnosia and a human.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's the interesting thing is like those events look like the same and when they start up, but they're totally separate. Like I actually encountered the other SQ event that like started up that looked like a quote unquote bad end with her, but it was actually like, oh no, this is actually like the quote unquote good version of how this thing can go.
Her bad ending is really funny.
Oh my god, dude. I said that to friend, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this game.
Yeah, she just pulls out like a collar. The fun thing about this game is that it is a very hard game to spoil because like everyone's roles are random every time.
Yeah,
so
there's nothing stagnant in this game. It's always dynamic. It's always different. It's interesting, like the level of variance you get out. Because I was speaking with my friend who started this game up, and it was interesting to hear him. Like he didn't unlock event search yet, and event search is something you eventually unlock where, like,
which is basically the meat of the game.
Yeah,
is what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, so like eventually, they'll ask you, okay, to find new events. You're gonna have to have specific like setups for this loop. Like it's only gonna need this amount of people with this amount of Gnosia, and then you either and then it'll toggle for you. Okay, there can be an engineer, but no doctors, no AC followers, a bug, and no guardian angel. Like the specific setups like that for events, and like the game is very good at like pre-configuring that for you once you unlock the event search feature.
And basically, all you do is you hit a button. And it'll scroll through a list of combinations. Like it'll randomly give you a combination list, which will give you an event. Now, the thing is, the game will not tell you what you need to do with this combination of characters. So this is a good thing or a bad thing, because you might accidentally end up where you like vote off or you kill someone you need for an event at the beginning and you won't even notice. So we were talking about this before the podcast started. I have, for better or worse, I've never played a game that has so accurately represented the idea of being in a time loop like this one.
Yes, because like the way, like while each loop is different in the sense of like, what, like who gets voted off, who's the actual human in Gnosia this round. Like it's never like, hey, I'm on loop 60. It's always this person. It's always gonna be something different. They say to each other, how they communicate, how they like how they throw each other in the bus, whatnot. Like you'll get to a point in this game where you're just kind of like going through the text boxes because you already know what they're gonna say because you've seen it so many times.
Okay, I'm glad you're saying this because I also felt I was wondering if I was alone on this. When it comes down to discussions, I'm not even reading what they're saying because you're able to just understand what. So you're just going through like for example, when like you can do a fun skill where it's like, oh, every human, and if your intelligence or whatever that skill is,
Intuition.
What's the one? And if your intuition is high enough, you have a chance to see if someone's lying. So you basically, so everyone's like, I'm human, and the game might stop on someone, and like there's this weird effect, and
There's
know
like
they're
an
lying.
inverted smear on there that on a frame during that. It's kind of interesting how they signify that.
This game is cool. Like,
yeah, you really do get the sense of like you've known these people for a long time, and you know that they're gonna say like the same shit, but that's what it feels like to be a time traveler, you know?
Yeah, and it's cool because you start to, and especially in this second playthrough I've unwillingly done, where you know how people act. You know that this person is often likely to get voted out immediately.
Poor
unless
Shigemichi,
someone
dude.
does.
Shigemichi always.
Shigemichi is all him and what's his name? Sha Ming. They are the first to go unless you do something.
Yeah, dude. So the really, really cool thing about this game too is that the visual design and character design of this game is unreal.
It's gorgeous.
I love it. Whoever did the illustration for it it's lovely.
And not just that, the soundtrack is.
Oh yeah.
I just want to interject.
I will say, sorry.
No, I think I just wanted to
two
interject.
engineers stood out.
It's been awesome to hear you two like kind of gush about this and go over all the details, but I just wanted to say that the art like really is quite striking whenever I see like a news post and it's like a thumbnail or we see like marketing for it. It is very distinct and it's what draws my eye to the game. And I didn't even know how it played until you guys started talking about it.
And what's cool is that, sorry to interrupt you, is like speaking about the art, so we don't like get away from that. I just want to say there is a surprisingly large amount of unique CG images drawn for all the different characters. So you'll be seeing unique art way more often than you might think.
Yeah, and my son said that this is like when the Mass Effect crew like play Among Us, like way back. Like I meant in the sense that like every person's game isn't necessarily like human, like in their appearance. Like Shigemichi that we were just talking about, he looks like your standard typical like alien UFO alien, like like
Area 51.
Well, yeah,
someone's a dolphin.
Yeah, one of them's a talking dolphin, and she's adorable. She's like she has like this like helmet on and filled with water, and then written like in like pink highlighter on that helmet. It's like Otome, which is her name, with like a heart at the end.
I feel really bad because she's usually one of the first people I vote out when I don't know who to pick.
But what I was gonna say is that the character designs are really interesting. Like you were talking about the dolphin, the fact that like you see her fins in like the spacesuit, and then there's like mechanical fingers on the tips. It's like really inventive.
And what I really I think is really important what this game does, where when you pick a character creation, you can pick a male. You can choose to identify as a male, female, or non-binary, and also. Like there's a handful of people in this game that are identified as non-binary or pan and whatnot, and like, they don't make a big deal about it. They're just people, you know. It's cool and whatnot, and you learn more about them. And interesting things like pop up about this game because this game is like not just like being on a space station. And it's like there's only Earth. There's all sorts like different.
You learn about
planets,
culture.
Like these people. Yeah, these people are from, and you'll hear just like in passing by in different events in conversation that like. There's like all these sorts of different alien life forms out there, and as Cullen was getting at, like different cultures. Like one of the things I learned like early on was like there's this whole culture that like spends like their life just counting their fingers. I think.
What?
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen that event.
Yeah.
There's a really funny event because this also takes place in the future. So there's an event you can do where you can watch a movie with one of the main characters who's also going through these loops with you. Basically, you're the only two who knows what's going on. So you're watching a movie and Shigemichi shows up and he's like, hey, aren't you gonna hold Setsu's hand? That's what you do when you watch movies. You hold hands, right? Because this takes place in the future, and they only have a vague idea what happened in the past. So then the scene fades out, and it's like you spent the entire movie holding Setsu and Shigamichi's hands.
Aw, I haven't got to that yet. I can't wait.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Just if you're like for that one, just make sure you hit Let's Play if you're see a scene with Setsu. It's a bit hard to miss, but it's really good.
I'm so confused, but I love the enthusiasm. Like
it's
I think I speak for the rest of us.
It's one of those games that you won't really get until you play it. That's the hard part about this game.
Yeah,
it is like nothing. I imagine like 95% of people who are, including the people in here listening to us, like it makes sense in our heads because we played a lot of it. But that's the thing.
Josh, are you going to write a review for it?
Yeah,
I don't know. So you're probably in the same boat. How the fuck do you review this game?
Yeah, dude. It has the weird 13 Sentinels problem where like it's so easy. It's so easy to talk about this game for people who like are playing it or have played it, but to everyone else listening around the room, it's like you sound insane right now.
What are you talking about? Like I've played way too much of this game, and eventually you just like. I was visiting my girlfriend recently because we wanted to like work on stuff together, and I was just sitting here playing this, and she was just watching me, not knowing what I was doing because I just my brain kind of shuts off, and it's muscle memory at this point.
Yeah, that's the weird part too. Like you can't, but if you're watching someone play who's played it a lot, you won't be able to like keep up with them because they're probably just thumbing through everything because they already know in their heads. While you're just like, you're not even like reading what they're saying anymore. It's like, oh, I already know what they're saying. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's a lot of, and that actually, it's I wanted to like, because I imagine we need to move on soon. But there's one thing I wanted to bring up, and it's that, and it kind of has to do with what you're mentioning earlier about all the different like the non-binary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The translation's weird.
Yeah, they're pretty good at employing they them pronouns for the non-binary folks, but there is still like weird wonky translation quirks.
I've seen them slip up a couple times with stuff like that, and like that's the thing is because this game does not have voice acting, it is very difficult. I think that it's gonna probably be a while before anyone does any actual like comparisons between the original script and the English. I want to say that any slip-ups are not out of malice, and it's just because the translation is very strange.
The in-game manual in this game, like it's I think I got a rough start to this game because it took a while for me to warm up to it because like I was like, oh, this game has an in-game manual, let me go check it out, and they're pretty in-depth at how the game is played before like he introduces it to you. So it felt overwhelming, but at the same time it felt very hard because like the translation of the in-game manual like really slips up, has like some typos, has some words smashed together, and like some of like the key roles, like say how they identify true engineer from like the other engineers and whatnot, like there'll be like a sense like the true engineer is like, you know, different from the true engineer. It's like, wait, that doesn't make any sense.
I didn't even read the manual.
Yeah,
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, because the whole manual like explains like even a whole like factor of the game that doesn't spell it outright, whereas there's an amicability and like a hatred like system at play behind the scenes, but it never tells you outright. I do
kind of like how there's a lot of stuff going on under the hood that it just never tells you about, and it's just kind of like just to make the whole like experience feel more human.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very strange. There's a lot of reused dialogue, and I don't know how much that's intentional, and it doesn't always like work well together.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things where it's like I'm not sure about is because when they mentioned about one of the characters being Pan, I'm like, is that the exact word you mean to use right here? Because I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if you've seen the
was it a shower scene?
The shower scene.
Okay.
With what is
Comet?
What is
Comet or Rockio?
No, Rockio, where I'm not sure what the intention was there because the translation is very weird.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And when you look at the notes, and the notes after that make more sense, but I too was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
because the notes for that scene is they say Rockio is like it's like technically. I'm trying to remember the phrasing. Honestly, I have my Switch. It's like,
I think I don't want to spoil like what the note says, but it's like
yeah,
biologically and then
physically blank.
Okay, yes,
Technically, physically blank, and I'm like, I don't. What do you? Because
I feel it's one of those. It's like, am I dumb? Am I the one who's like who should feel like bad about like not knowing what they're trying to maybe a little more?
I think it's the translation because and the translation makes stuff like that a bit difficult to discover. It's like because I think this game is well intentional. Like I think they mean well, but the translation. What's up?
Can I just say that it's really cool that a lot of these Japanese games are coming out and actually like showcasing like non-binary and whatnot characters? Because like hearing this like it and Gnosia is really cool. And like I know when I was playing through Labyrinth of Yomi, there's like intersex and non-binary like different facets you can have for your characters. There's not a huge like NPC that's like in the story that's like actually like trans. It's like really cool to see that stuff coming out of Japan now. It's really cool to see.
Oh, absolutely. Like I'm pretty sure like one of the main Setsu, the main one of the main characters is non-binary. Like like you look at their data sheet like from early on and it'll say like, oh, gender not available, and like it's
and the nice thing about that is like they never like put like special attention to it in the game. It's like okay.
No, everyone's cool with it because everyone's unique. Everyone is like a different species, and there's so much going on, and there's so many unique little scenes that pop up. Right, like they put so much attention to detail. I wouldn't be surprised if they had like a Bible of information for this world, and then just picked little bits and pieces of that. Like there's so many like unique different things that can happen. Like one of them is like, oh, like in discussion randomly, if you have these two characters together and they're both pretending to be engineer, they're like, well, fuck it, let's game it out. And then it like after the discussion, if they're alive, it cuts to them just playing video games together, like against each other. And then one of them's like, yeah, I was able to beat you because I'm a Gnosia, and everyone's like, what? And then the hard cuts, and it's just like they were put into cold sleep.
Oh shit!
It's so funny. We should probably wrap this up.
Oh yeah, I'll just say that the funniest.
I need to get this game.
It's good. It's way better than I was ever expecting.
The funniest,
when I was reading through the go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I'll just say as a final note, like the funniest like comparing notes moment was me and another friend playing it was. He didn't unlock the events search feature yet, and like he was telling me about like, oh shit, did you see this event? Like, there's a certain character in this game, like that incident happened. I'm like, wait, what? It's like I've heard about this incident. Someone's like said like a character in game told me about this incident, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Like it made me question this incident. But I was like, but they kept it under wraps for me. It's like, oh, this person has already seen that incident before even getting this feature.
I think I know the. Well, I think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. Is it with Actually, you should DM me that.
Yeah. It's probably what we're thinking about. It's.
Well, because the interesting about that scene is that it's not just like it's not the character being like, hey, do you remember this? It's like two different things, and you can question both.
Yeah,
and then you don't. Oh yeah, that's the one. That scene was so cool.
Yeah, dude.
God, that scene was cool.
Anyway,
yeah, we sound like crazy people. We get it.
Yeah, I just say that like the narrative is freeform and variant enough to like you can like even as Cullen is saying like some certain things. I'm like, oh, I haven't encountered that yet, but that sounds amazing. He's not really spoiling it for me. It just makes me wanna. It excites me to go play more of it.
Oh yeah, like it's just. This, honestly, talking to Josh about it's kind of made me just like it more.
Seriously,
because it has flaws. There are definitely glaring issues with like how this game is, but it is so charming and it's a very social game, which I think the developers were intending.
Honestly, like listening to you get to talk about it, I can totally see why IGN Japan settled on a 10 out of 10 for it because it sounds like nothing else out there. It's entirely unique.
I'm wondering if maybe. Like the Japanese script is a bit tighter and weaves together a bit better to get those 10 out of 10s because there are
I think
definite.
I think if I play it, I might actually play it in Japanese. I might
Wouldn't
just
be a
get
bad
the
idea.
version. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
will
think that's,
say,
that's
when I-
probably the most
when I was-
unfortunate thing about the game is probably it's like the localization is okay, but it's like it could have been so much more than okay.
It's weird, yeah, because sometimes the lines read really great, and then sometimes they're very weird. So it bounces back and forth, and I think it needed another editing pass.
When I was first looking at the podcast document for this, I wasn't aware that Gnosia was going to be like the highlight. So I'm going to go ahead, because we already talked about how great the art is. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the thumbnail for this Tetracast.
Good.
That's on you guys.
I'm sure Josh and I could send you like numerous cool screenshots to put up.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah, I was not expecting that, but it was really cool to see all the enthusiasm for it. So, who has been boxed out here? I guess James and Adam. Let's see. Do you guys have maybe one thing that you want to highlight from this week? I'll hand it off to James first.
I mean, I mostly just played Bravely Default 2. Not too much to talk about that hasn't already been said. Obviously,
Fair
we
enough.
put up the casual mode for it, where I played like the first hour or so. I did play the Resident Evil 8 PS5 demo. Not too much to say there. It's a visual showcase and whatnot. It's interesting, but it's also like 15 minutes. So again, not too much to talk there.
I think the bummer for that demo was I preferred the Resident Evil 7 demo when they first put that out.
Yeah, I would agree. I played the 8 demo and I was like, yeah, I can't wait for 8. But I think the lack of combat, weirdly as this sounds, like even the small glimpse that you get in 7 when you can fight that thing down in the basement, that was kind of enough. And then in 8, I was just kind of like, I know you can get killed by one of the vampires, but I was just like, meh. Especially since that's seemingly the focus of 8 with the like dodge and kick and stuff.
I'm not a big fan of that style of Resident Evil, and that's why I'm probably not going to pick this up right away. And because it feels like a weird backstep, because I didn't like 7, but I loved Remake 2 and 3.
Yeah, man.
So it's like
I love all of them, but 7. Oh my god, I love that game.
Because the whole thing with 7 is that you're supposed to be like really scared, but I didn't get scared. I got annoyed really quick at everything, and because there's no way to really defend yourself, it's just kind of like, eh. Maybe I'll give it another shot one day, but I'm hope there's more of a new Resident Evil game in the style of the remakes,
AKA remake of 4.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Well, I mean, yeah. Honestly, I'd be excited for a remake of 4. As controversial as that take is.
Oh,
but
the perfect game though, man.
I just want to see, because again, I love Resident Evil 3. I love Resident Evil 2. Remakes of both of those. So I'm like, I'd like to see what they could do. It's probably going to be fun.
I would like to see an intergrade of 4.
Yeah. But I want to see that team work on a new Resident Evil game, like a brand new game, because they know how to do it. They know what they're doing.
I think they're too stuck onto like the how they split up Resident Evil inadvertently into trios of like 1 through 3 was a certain style, 4 through 6 was a certain style. Now they're gonna stick with this first person style till 9, and then we'll see what Resident Evil 10 looks like.
I hope not, but
I think
people
that's a
seem to
prep
like it.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, Adam, did you have anything you wanted to talk about this week?
For the sake of time, I'll just talk about it next week.
Fair enough.
No.
Uh-oh.
Now I feel bad.
No, it's fine. It's just that it's really not tied to any schedule or anything, so I can talk about it
Time
whenever.
is a limited resource. It's fair enough.
I'll have to make sure to talk about some of because I had 2 things on my docket, but I don't need to talk about them at all because I talked way too much about everything else. But I will also talk about those next week.
Well, this is kind of inevitable when we have 6 people here, so it happens. Though I do know that Josh has one more thing to talk about that we are obligated to talk about because he wrote something for it. That sounds cynical, but I don't mean it that way.
Yeah.
Josh, tell me about Neptunia Virtual Stars.
All right. Everyone's been waiting for a new Neptunia game, and what better way for a new Neptunia game to come out than to have one with her and all her buddies in game industry interweave with the world of VTubers. Everyone's heard of VTubers here, right?
No.
Yeah.
A lot of enthusiasm for
I
VTubers.
know 2 of them by name.
Okay, who do you know?
I'm friends with
Kurome
VTubers.
Inugame. Do I have that right? or
what?
Inugami Krone.
Okay, all right. That's one.
And shit, I thought I knew a second one.
All right.
Gargura.
Yeah.
Gargura. There you go.
I know most of the Hall Live English ones, I feel like.
All right, we have an expert on the panel here.
I just want to say that I am not like super cynical against YouTubers. Like it's just that I don't watch streaming much in general. So just a subset of streaming video games just naturally.
I'm totally fine with them. I always like to poke fun, but
I will say that I like Gura because she's very good at rhythm games.
All right.
I'm a simple man. I see a streamer that likes rhythm games. I like.
Rock on, dude.
I know there's a VTuber that's like apparently a monster woman. That's about all I know about VTubers.
Well, I'm sure there's all sorts of VTubers for every
occasion.
Yeah. So this one is very it starts off with there's this whole virtual realm of where VTubers reside. It's like, oh no, we're getting taken over by this other nation called Obsoletia, and they're making our content obsolete. So
Neptunia.
So obviously obsolete content means death. So the goddess of this land is like, oh, we need heroes and saviors to rid us of this threat. So what better way for Neptune, Noir, Blanc, and Vert to get transported in along with these two original game VTubers called, I shit you not, they're literally called Me and You. That's their names. Yeah, and it's spelled Me, M-E, and You, Y-O-U. So
does this work better in like Japanese or?
So that's the thing.
I don't know if this works better anywhere.
I think their duo name for like their VTuber channel is called like was it Mewtune or something? I forgot, or it's something like that. And then so it's probably a pun that works better in Japanese. So they're all transported in, and it's like, okay, here's the deal. You gotta help us. It's like, all right, let's go. So you're traveling to these stages in the game to get rid of the Great Eight or whatnot, and they're like the top generals of this Obsoletia nation, and they're all kind of riffs on like popular culture these days. Like there's like a stage that's like stylized as like a Twitter utopia, which is a nightmare.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah. There's one that's actually, James, there's one that's like stylized like a dark library, but a lot of the panels is like the dive to the heart sequences in Kingdom Hearts, where you have like that mosaic in the ground, you're fighting Darkseid.
Don't try and drag me into this.
I'm just saying, man, that's what it was. The one that I liked the most was the stage where it's just like it was very food based. And like all your platforms were pancakes, and there was like oversized strawberries and whipped cream everywhere. It's like, all right, finally a stage that I can get behind. So the flow, ebb and flow of this game is that it's not a turn-based RPG like standard Neptunia games. There's an action RPG where you control both the VTubers and the four goddesses, but they have different play styles, and you can switch between them seamlessly in battle. Where the four goddesses are like a third-person shooter, where they all have different types of guns and they all work differently. Like Neptune has a rapid shooter kind of, but all her shots are low damage, and Blanc has this shotgun-esque weapon where she can charge it up for a lot of damage and whatnot. And then meanwhile, the VTuber duo is like more of a standard hack and slash, where Me has a sword and You has a bow. And
this is like a who's on first shit.
I'm glad that you're explaining this and that someone on the site is suffering through these games, because everything you're saying is just like white noise to me when it comes to Neptunia.
So, and both of these game modes don't feel great to control at all. It's a very floaty game. It tries to be an action RPG, but what I like about action RPGs is like kind of like the weight of like your blows and swings and like a smooth combat. Nothing about this combat is really smooth. So like when even like hit stunning enemies, like there's like no like impact or no like response from an enemy when you hit them, unless like with the goddesses, when you shoot them, there's like this circular meter that fills up, and when you fill that up, then they're dazed for like a few seconds and whatnot. And then another big thing about this game is like there's like these real guest VTubers that are quote unquote real VTubers. Obviously, VTubers themselves aren't like the character themselves aren't real, but there are real people behind them. So that they have like some of the HoloLive people like Hosho Marine and Sakura Miko, and who was the other one that people like Shirakami Fubuki something. Sure, and then I guess they have the HoloLive people, and then they have all these other VTubers that I have no idea. At least HoloLive I kind of get because people like retweet them a lot, but all the other VTubers are like kind of like independent VTubers or like part of like VTuber companies that don't really have a great Western presence, I would say. So I mean, as I mentioned in the review, I guess maybe the value in this game is exposing those like lesser known VTubers to like a Western audience that maybe they'll cling to. But other than that, like there's like exploration in this game is very boring. The combat itself is boring. Like all you're doing in stage is like trying to find the way forward by flipping levers and switches, and like you'll unlock this barrier. All of the boss battles takes place in like the same dull arena, like a dull open space arena. The whole gimmick in boss battles is, hey, there are vocal tracks playing in them, so it's full anime, and like there's like a seek bar of like the song in there, and at certain points of the song you'll be powered up or the boss will be powered up, and then you kind of like shoot them or hit them till crystals pop out, and then collecting those crystals will allow you to enter this resonance mode, and which you continue to do the same thing, and then you do a super team attack, and then usually after that you can do another super team attack, and then after that you can usually do another super team attack until they're dead. And nothing really like is kind of significant or fun about this game, I would say. There's like it tries to do a lot with a little, and so it tries to do those two gameplay modes. It tries to do like a mini base building enhancement mechanic for like the little shops in the hub world. It has like a little mini game with like that has like a rhythm element to it that feels shitty to control somehow. You can like dress up all your characters like with these like accessories and whatnot, and make them look goofy, and you can unlock passives on them. It's like, okay, great, but it wasn't a pleasant experience to really play through. It was more of a curiosity, I guess, and then it didn't really pan out.
So 8 out of 10.
Obviously, every game 8 out of 10.
Every game 8 out of 10. Got it.
Yeah, I gave it up for on the site, which is like that. There is merit to this game. I just think it was boring.
It sounds miserable from what you've just described.
I will say it was definitely one of those like this is the type of game.
I'll put myself in front of the firing range. That nothing of what you just said sounded appealing. I probably would have been much harsher on this game.
Don't worry, Josh. At least it wasn't Arc of Alchemist, one of Metacritic's certified 10 lowest games of 2020.
I still wonder what that game looks and runs like on Switch, man.
I mean, I posted a WebM before. You
did. Oh yeah, you did. Yeah.
I remember we got I played through one of the Neptunia games on Switch, and it ran so badly. It was like the last one they put out. It was like a remake of one of the PS4 ones, and it was probably the worst performing game I've ever seen on the system.
Wasn't a Neptunia game the first released PS5 exclusive, or to be released?
To be released. It was already released in Japan, but we'll get around to it in news. So for the PS5 exclusive Neptunia experience.
Go / reverse, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Sometimes these Neptunia games, like I have
my soul feels
titles,
dead during this discussion. Fucking, what is the series?
I don't know.
This is poison.
It feels like a shit post that has gone on too long. Like it's one of those games. It always surprises me about this game that it had a really terrible first PS3 game, but allowed to continue existing because overseas sales was good for it.
Yeah, no. Since you said shitpost, it's funny. It's like someone on Twitter made a really funny tweet and then made that their identity.
That feels like
that was their personality from there on. Is just saying the same tweet with different words. And it's like, okay, the joke's dead. We gotta go move on. What else do you got? It was like, no, but look at
what is the RPG site personality?
It had a it had a novel premise, and then like it doesn't have it doesn't have an identity anymore. It feels like, because the whole thesis of Neptunia from the top is like, hey, there's these personified game consoles, and we're gonna like reenact the console war in a really in a parody manner, and the main protagonist is a console that never got released. So
I'll be honest, on its surface, that sounds like maybe you could do something compelling with this.
Yeah, it's kind of okay, and then now that has lost relevancy. It's like, oh, I always think it's like, if you were to think of like a new or expand the Neptunia concept to be more relevant these days, you need to have like anime girl representations for like Game Pass, for Amazon Luna, for Stadia, and like
VTubers even. Oh wait,
I'm sorry, it's already been filled. They already covered that.
Stadia is in like ratty clothes that don't fit very well. Sorry,
no, Stadia is just a grave.
Oh,
I was not trying to go like so hammer on head, but
I'm just like, just hearing about Neptunia has awakened, like, it's just this meanness inside me. I just bitter, like, whatever. Fucking Neptunia.
It's fair. I won't blame anyone, you know.
Colin's
Josh,
like,
I respect you from
obliterated.
Josh, I respect you for putting yourself through these games, but holy fuck.
So I don't want to like poo-poo on someone's favorite thing or anything, but this is just anecdotal on my part. But like, whenever I tweet about Neptunia now, I feel like it's just like doesn't engage very well anymore with just like our Twitter audience. I don't know. This is anecdotal, but I don't know if maybe people are just like waiting for the next mainline one or what. I don't know.
I think that's probably it too, because the last mainline one was like 2016 or 2015 or something, and then it's been years and years of like shitty spin-offs like Neptunia Virtual Stars.
Remember Neptunia RPG?
Oh god, no. Canada was supposed to save Neptunia. What happened?
Yeah, it was a Canadian studio.
Well, I just figured out that Amazon Japan now sells digital PlayStation like Japanese cards, as long as you have a Japanese address on your account. So since I have a forwarder, since I have a forwarder on my account since when I imported that PS4 Pro, I am now getting PSN credits for buying Gnosia on Vita.
Nice. I remember that like
immediately take a chance and not talk about Neptunia.
Oh, that's why he wanted to buy Gnosia in Japanese, so you get the Vita version.
It's funny because my technically my Amazon Japan account says I live in like, I think it's like a metro or something. Because I made one so I could buy the digital copy of like SMT4 Final when that came out ages ago. And I just never got rid of that address because it's just really convenient.
RPG Site Game of the Year 2016.
That's right. I guess
good game though.
Well, before we move on, I just want to quickly mention, because it'll be old news by the time the next podcast comes out, was they're holding an open beta test for the Japan only release of Ys 6 Online: The Arc of Napishtim. It is Ys 6 remade into a mobile MMO. So you start that game by making a character, and you choose one of 4 classes: a swordsman, a wizard, a thief, an archer, that can level up into more like 2 more advanced jobs. It is really funny because that game starts with Olha, I think Isha or whoever, finding Adolf shipwrecked on the beach, of course, and then right beside him is your player-made character passed out alongside with him.
You know what that reminds me of?
The game is at least good.
It's surprisingly okay. Like,
all right,
I'm actually not having a terrible time with it, though it is not as snappy as you want Ys to be. It's kind of like slow moving, unfortunately, and you get around by moving like, you know, a virtual joystick on your phone, and you have like this button to attack and do special skills on the other corner. Yeah, it's
you know what that reminds me of, even though it's a completely different style of game? The Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, where it's like following the story of the movie, and like, by the way, these video game characters, like the player party is like literally in lockstep behind them. They were also here the whole time.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, because your character's kind of like spectating Adol's like what he's doing. It's like you jump in, and then Adol becomes your party member, and then early on, you'll you see like other players running around too as you're playing this game, and you see like messages up top like of them getting items or something. So and you have like a gear score as well. So you're equipping like these cards that the monsters drop, almost like Ragnarok Online. And then like there's soul cards and you equip them to your equipment and they raise your gear score. And then there'll be a point in the game where you go into a dungeon and there's actually like a damage meter, like a damage parser that you can keep track of, because like this is a multiplayer game, so you can keep track of like if your party members are putting up their like worth during it,
pulling their weight.
Yeah, and at some point there'll be like mandatory like group quests in it where you have to like party up with other people to progress. It's such a weird thing of like, who said in like a meeting, it's like, yeah, we should make E6 into MMO.
Like not only like just tying it to a single player existing RPG in the first place seems weird, but E6 out of all, like it just seems like doubly weird. Like, why E6? Why in this manner?
It's also really funny because like Adol speaks in full sentences here. Your character also, Adol, your character also speaks as well. And in like the party dialogue, you have like these beautiful illustrations for like Adol and the other members. And then when it's time for your character to speak, it's just their 3D model on there. It's like, okay, like I guess.
Aside, I think it's still kind of funny how Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, that Ryan mentioned, is just like a complete clone of Final Fantasy X. It's just that it exists.
Oh yeah,
sorry. It's just so weird.
The first game that makes you question the legitimacy of JRPG as any sort of real term with real meaning.
So a quick
It's
update.
literally Final Fantasy X. It's like the same.
Yes, James?
So quick update. The workaround worked. I was able to buy Japanese PSN credit from Amazon Japan.
Hell yes.
More Gnosia talk next week.
I hope
Yep.
so. I'm ready.
Hopefully I won't oversave my file again and I won't have to restart it again. And I'll have finished it.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have finished it too. That's what I'm working towards. It's so engaging when you start getting into it.
So obviously we don't have the big giant news deluge of a Nintendo Direct or a State of Play or even a Pokemon Presents this week, but we did have a New Game Plus Expo and a few other publisher streams, a lot of release dates, a lot of more niche titles. So this will be an interesting complement on the news front compared to the last couple Tetracasts. The biggest news of this week is Mistwalker and Sakaguchi, father of Final Fantasy. This game has been in public development for a while now. This is Fantasian, which is a diorama adventure RPG for mobile made by Mistwalker for Apple Arcade. So I know Sakaguchi has been sharing like screenshots for this game for a few months now, but here it was. This week was the first like real marketing dump where we got
just to clarify, when Apple Arcade was like first like showcased, like I think all the way back in 2019. They showed Fantasian back then, like in a reel of all the other games. That was like when it was announced. So it's been a few years.
Yeah, it's been development. Like it was like it felt like a concept back then because the only quote unquote footage we had was like Sakaguchi like showing like the handcrafted environments of this game.
So this week we got basically a 2-minute story trailer, about a 1-minute feature trailer, 2-minute feature trailer. A bunch of screenshots, a bunch of artwork, the premise of the story, basically the big like official unveiling for Fantasian. I guess maybe I'll just open it to the floor. How do we think about this? Mistwalker has been kind of quiet on the RPG front for a while now.
This makes
so
me wish I had an Apple device so much. I think
Yeah. Is it coming to anything else or is it just Apple?
just Apple.
Or do we not know?
Yeah, it's hopefully it comes to other platforms. I really want to try this game. I think the coolest thing that they showed off was when they're introducing the battle system. It is a turn-based battle system, but there's a mechanic called the Dimension battle in this game, so you can actually queue up random encounters because this has random encounters like old school RPGs. So as you're running around, there'll be like at the instance where a random battle would occur, it'll actually just go into like be stored into like a separate dimension, and you can queue up like feels like 20 random encounters. So like when you're ready to like if you want to start like battling, you can like initiate that and do all the battle encounters at once in there, and it seems versatile enough where it won't take too long to like get through the battles as well. And the battle system, from what it looks like in the trailer, was at like you can actually angle your attacks and their trajectory. So one of the examples was, I think there's like this wind spell, I think, or where you angle it so like it's hitting like this arc of enemies, and then you initiate that, you hit all the enemies at once in that trajectory.
Yeah, there's some small. It looks pretty much like a turn-based RPG, but there is like a positioning element where if enemies are close to each other and your attack like lines through them, you can hit more than one at a time.
And they make
I was going to say the main exploration is like this isometric camera, because that's like the handcrafted like dioramas. They say that like there's over 150 of them that have been created by the artist for the game, and then like as you move through it, the camera perspective will like shift to keep showing you like the most relevant kind of perspective on each individual map.
It looks
gorgeous. They said there's over 150 like literally handcrafted dioramas made by various
international
artists, like
all around
tonkatsu artists, you know, for like those live action shows in Japan, whatever you call it, not Power Rangers, but the Japanese version of it, stuff like that. And I actually was going back to some of the earlier footage for Fantasian, and there was actually a kind of a amusing quote from Sakaguchi where he is like, "I'm not sure what I've gotten into and how many of these I'm gonna have to make or have made." And like, it's because literally like 150, just these aren't like CG rendered or animated backgrounds. They're like constructed, like real things, dioramas. So it's kind of cool. Like it makes it definitely has a unique art style.
The game looks dope as hell, but I don't have a Apple anything.
Exactly.
Am I the only one here with an Apple device?
No, I have one too, but I feel like it's full on deaf ears for me.
So what is an Apple TV, and how do I get one? Like, is this like a big investment to play this game, or is it like something kind of like cheap I could just get and then play? Because I'm also really interested, but I don't know. I don't have any Apple devices besides AirPods.
You might be able to get
iPhone,
like
iPad, Mac, Apple TV.
I heard you can play with AirPods. Just download it to AirPods.
Okay, cool. Well, that's good. Wait, so I was just can you play this on like a Mac?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then maybe
OS, I believe
because okay, I might somehow find my way into getting a Mac soon, like a laptop. So that's good then.
So in terms of story, it's honestly probably the least interesting part of this, but it's like a character who's lost his memory, so that's not too unique. But it's like it's going to be like this mobile game, like storybook. Like you gain new, like not like it doesn't seem to be like one long storyline, but rather like individual little story snippets that are parts of this character's memory. Is kind of how the content's actually going to go, and I assume they might release like new ones after the game releases and so on.
I guess to reassure audiences, just to make it perfectly clear, there's no gotcha elements.
No, it doesn't seem to be.
Okay.
Yeah. So the actual press release wording for what Adam's talking about was to tell an epic story. A novel approach was used in the form of a memory system where players encounter and collect various memories, journal entries, and notes presented as miniature in-game novels to flesh out the story. These bite-sized novels have unique artwork, music, and sound effects. And then, of course, speaking of music, this game is composed by Nobuo Uematsu. So
It does sound echoes of Lost Odyssey's Dreams.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, good point. Yes.
which is also Mistwalker, at least partially Mistwalker.
I think there was some talk. I don't know what the source was on this, but this might possibly be like Uematsu's last fully composed, like as he composes all the tracks in a soundtrack. Like this might be one of his last fully composed works as well.
He's deserved, his partial retirement.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, what's the last full OST he did? Like Blue Dragon or Lost Odyssey?
I heard he
So-
did
Or the last story?
1.0.
Well, oh yeah, he's done like a
If you count
few,
that.
like he's done like a few individual tracks here and there, like even in
Yeah,
Final
he
Fantasy
did
15 and whatnot. So, did he have anything in 7 Remake at all, or no? I mean, obviously the remixes of his tracks.
So inherently he did. Yeah.
So
Yeah, but that's obviously not the whole thing, but definitely, of course, the track here and there.
But my final word on this is like this could be the game to get me to play an RPG on a mobile device. Even though I know I've said that before, like with other games like Tales of Cristoria, I was kind of into like trying, but the fact that this is like no gotcha, well, as of so far, the fact that it looks more like a traditional RPG and it doesn't feel like so inherently like it feels like this game could have released on Switch or something, which I guess maybe that's another can of worms to even bring that up. But I see no reason. Like I have an iPhone. This game looks interesting. I love RPGs. No reason not to try it.
Are you sure you love RPGs, Brian?
I don't know. Is that why I'm here?
I mean, it's literally this is literally the classic Final Fantasy like heritage.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, did they ever say any sort of like release window? I think it's all just TBA.
I guess in the official like announcement they didn't say anything, but last year in like their New Year's letter, for 2021 they said 2021 is the year of Fantasian. So I guess they're hoping to get it this year, but they didn't really like explicitly state yes, it's coming out this year. I mean, which is fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna like start kicking down doors if it's not out this year, especially with the years that we've had. All right, so now we're going to go into some of the other announcements from some of the different streams from across the week. This is one that I think Adam and James might be able to talk about. This is a dungeon crawler that released in Japan last year that has now got a localization for Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, PC, and Steam called Undernauts Labyrinth of Yomi, which was originally called what?
Yomi Osakuhana.
Yeah, so I know you guys talked about this at a Tetracast, one of the first ones we did last year. And I think it was James that really expressed interest in this one. So now it finally is getting an English localization. It's coming this fall, 2021.
From Axis, too. And Axis hasn't done a lot of RPGs recently, so that's cool.
I kind of figured that they'd be the ones to handle it because
they did Deathmark.
Yeah, but also they're like, Nice America is just too busy right now.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, Axis is always looking for games to localize because they don't have a Japanese owner. Yeah. I actually imported this on Switch. I hadn't started it yet. I'm probably going to play it in Japanese before it gets localized. But I'm definitely interested in it. It has a very SMT-inspired aesthetic, to put it mildly. And like even like reading through the like manual, like I even have it right here. Even says that it has like a whole kind of like an SMT style like alignment system that kind of like how Stranger of Sword City did, where you could.
Which, by the way, same developer. This is Experience Inc. So
yeah,
Saber Sapphire Wings, Stranger of Sword City.
It would be fair to say that Stranger of Sapphire Wings is obviously their latest game that's being localized. It's more of like a remaster of a previous one. And this one is their first like real new title in like who knows how long. Like first real dungeon RPG. Yeah.
So just to set the facts. So last year in Japan, both Saviors of Sapphire Wings and Yomi Osakuhana released in Japan last year, both dungeon crawlers by Experience Inc. But Saviors of Sapphire Wings is kind of like a re-release remake sort of deal. So Yomi is the kind of the new game. Really?
Well, those two other games are getting a dual pack here this month.
Like 2 weeks. Yeah.
Basically, the deal with Savior of Sapphire Wings is that I do know that players in Japan were a bit disappointed because it wasn't a proper remake of Students of the Round. Instead, it was like a remaster using Strangers of Sword City assets, which that probably won't be a big deal if you haven't played the original Students of the Round before, but it is something to keep in mind. Whereas, like, even just looking at like screenshots and even like the video they showed for announcing this, it's clear that I guess it's Undernauts now has a higher budget overall. I'm excited for it. I have heard some rumblings that do make me worried about the localization, so we'll see how that happens, like what happens when it releases, but still excited.
I feel like Access is hit or miss, let's say.
I will say, and I'm going to be cautious because I do know that Access employees listen to this podcast, that the amount of time that certain people were the amount of time that they wanted for people to handle the localization on this project was very, very short.
Yeah, there's going to be timing and budget issues that kind of all. It's more than just quality of translators. It's how much budget and time are they giving to this. So it's more complex.
Yeah, I understand why, because again, Axis.
It's a niche game
too. It's a niche game. Axis got a budget. I hope it turns out well. And this is a game that I feel like it's probably never going to do super well over here because it's a niche genre. It's like dungeon RPGs in general are just really hard to sell because you're into RPGs and then you're into RPGs, and dungeon RPGs are like more akin to like the stats and party composition, whereas like a lot of modern RPGs, that's less of the forefront and more of it's on the story.
You definitely need like either like a strong IP or prestige developer that has is well known for them to do somewhat well.
So yeah.
Well, originally, as a footnote, this game was originally they were conceiving it as an action RPG back when it was announced, like in 2016. But then they eventually like retooled it to be more in line with the dungeon RPGs that they had obviously had experience with.
Yep.
Well,
I remember that was kind of funny at the time where they're like, this game is going to be an action RPG. It's like, really? This developer only makes dungeon crawlers? That seems kind of different. And then, oh, no, they're making it a dungeon crawler again.
So we know astronauts. What's an undernaut?
An astronaut that explores the underworld. It sounds like a strange journey in here.
It's an astronaut that plays Undernight in Birth.
Oh, I like that.
And with that joke, I must say, I unfortunately have to leave to go do stuff. Thank you, gents, for having me.
No, thanks for being on. You really contributed a lot with your discussions on Bravely and Gnosia. So
I'm excited to listen to this one. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks, Cullen.
Yeah, ta-ta.
Even a good exit. Man.
Any other final thoughts on Undernauts? I tried looking up if it had a well-defined definition. It doesn't.
It's cool. It's cool that it's just releasing on everything here, like at once, because it had like a weird like launch in Japan where it was like
Xbox first, and then it was weird.
Yeah,
Experience does that sometimes where they release their games on Xbox.
It was really weird. And one thing that is probably not going to be a problem over here, but one thing when I was looking into buying, importing Yomi Sakura Undernauts. I honestly think they should have kept the old title.
Undernauts is kind of a weird title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, there was a weird thing where the Xbox One version, when it originally came out, there was a base game and then a version that included like post-game content separately as like DLC. And then like the PS4 and Switch versions by default just comes with the post-game DLC. So it almost sounds like they weren't completely finished with the game when they released it on Xbox. So they finished it up for the PS4 and Switch and also had DLC for like the post-game stuff, which it's very, very, very weird.
How many people in Japan have Xboxes right now?
I have no idea. I think it's like last I checked.
550.
No, last I checked, like Xbox Ones, it was like 10,000 or something. Not great. And I'd imagine that like a good half of the people that actually use their Xboxes in Japan that aren't just like Marines stationed over there are probably huge Experience Inc. fans.
They're probably non-negligible percentage.
Yeah. But yeah, the overall reception of the game in Japan, like I know I've mentioned it before, like Amazon Japan are usually really brutal, like their user reviews. The overall reception's been really well, so I'm excited to get to it. And hopefully it is like it, I guess, stacks up to the hype I'm seeing in user reviews over there.
I still feel like I dungeon crawlers, like that style of game, is something that really fits what I'm looking for in an RPG. But I still feel like there hasn't really been an experience game that has like knocked it out of the park yet. Yeah, Stranger of Sword City was the closest. It's their best game so far, but it still has some really strong caveats for that, even if you do like dungeon crawlers. So I'm interested in trying both Savior Sapphire Wings, which seems like it's sort of just okay. We'll see. And then this game
This this may be a dumb question, but I'm noticing the what they use at the end of the trailer here, and then what the box arts that have the North American ESRB. It still titles it Yomi wo Sakahana, and Undernauts doesn't appear on the box art.
I think that title must have been chosen very, very recently, because even on like the New Game Plus Expo stream, they didn't say the title. And then it was just in the press release where they had the title. So it seems like they might have just come up with the title like just before the announcement and just put it in the press release.
You're like, it's pending title or Undernauts, heads or tails.
Yeah. We actually got the press release before it was shown on the stream. And I was like, what is Undernauts? Like, what is this? So I guess what naut is a prefix for nautical, which is like exploration, and then under is okay. Something like that is the title. Okay.
Yep, it's slated for fall of this year for everything. Well, I mean, not next gen. So.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly a game that's going to be stressing next gen hardware in the first place. So.
Also announced at the New Game Plus stream from Nice America, we got the announcement of a new dual pack called Prinny Presents NIS Classics Volume 1. The two games in this pack are Phantom Brave and Soul Nomad and the World Eaters. So I have not played either of these games. Has anyone played these two games?
Yes, they're both strategy RPGs, and
I played Phantom Brave.
Yeah, they're both pretty okay. The weird one in this is I think Adam and I were or Adam was mentioning it was the Phantom Brave is called the Phantom Brave : the Bermuda Triangle Remastered, and we're unsure if this is like, since it's still going to be released for both Switch and PC, but there's already a release of Phantom Brave on PC.
So here's the thing, from what I understand, I played the PC version of Phantom Brave. I actually haven't finished it, but I played a good chunk of it. So the Phantom Brave Phantom Brave, originally released on PlayStation 2, is an NIS strategy RPG. It actually was the very first game localized by NIS America. Oddly enough, the first Disgaea game was actually localized by Atlas. Fun fact. And then Phantom Brave got a re-release on PlayStation Portable and Wii. I don't remember in what order. They both got like new content. Those versions, like the Wii version, I think had like a different alternate story with one of the characters, and then the PSP version had some new stuff as well. The PSP version is actually called Phantom Brave: The Bermuda Triangle. The PC version of these, as far as I understand, has all the content of the Wii and the PSP version kind of bundled in. So it's like, okay, this is complete. And then this new Switch version, I think, is basically the PC version on Switch, which is just kind of everything.
So they're not re-releasing like Phantom Brave again on PC because it's already there.
Yes, I actually had to email NIS America like, wait, is this coming to PC again? And they actually told me kind of briefly the PC announcement is for Soul Nomad. So basically what it seems like, and this is sensible, is that Soul Nomad, which you can talk about more than I can because I haven't played it, that's coming to PC. So it'll be on there with Phantom Brave, which is already on there, and then both those games are going to be bundled on Switch.
So it's actually very similar to the Grandia collection, where obviously it released as the pair, but on PC, Grandia 2 was already there, so they just kind of like retitled it.
Is Prinny anywhere in these games? Have I been fooled?
I think there's like there may be a cameo Prinny in Phantom Brave somewhere, but it's
like
not...
this is what George zeroes in on.
Like
he's in the title of the bundle pack. It's Prinny Presents.
Yeah, that is a fair question. I don't. Yeah, unless it's a cameo, I'm not a.
Maybe it's just he's like he is NIS's like mascot, I guess. Just that in the news announcements and stuff like that. It was like Prinny. I was like, oh god, not another one. This will kill me off. It's like Prinny Presents. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Soul Nomad is an interesting one. It's a strategy RPG that came out around, I think, 06, 07 for PS2.
Yeah, so it's a late PS2 game.
Yeah, it was. This is like one of those games that is touts that like, oh, you can make impactful decisions, you can be a good guy, bad guy, but this really goes all the way with it because you can actually like make like a bad or demon or evil playthrough in this game, and like it's really a really sad, depressing game if you want it to be. Like you can there's definitely you can like raid villages, you can like kill off significant people in that game. And like,
From what I read,
the story premise, the thing is like you get possessed by a demon.
So you played this?
Yeah, but those like way back when I haven't replayed.
So
it.
from what I've read, just literally from Wikipedia, it seems like you make a choice early on in the game, which basically decides if you're going to do the good route or the evil route. So it's not like choices you make in the game kind of leading to one end or the other. It's like kind of like a toggle at the beginning, I suppose. I might be wrong. That's just kind of how I'm interpreting it. But it sounds like, however the case, there's an evil route where you are pretty darn evil.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but I think even if you choose a route, like there are still like toggleable decisions within.
Okay.
Like it's not like you're confined to like there's like now a linear thing. It's like I think there's still some branching points in them where you can actually like, okay, I don't want to go that far,
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's. I mean, it wasn't a bad game. I mean, from what I remember, it was like it's a totally enjoyable experience. It's cool that they're bringing it back to more playable to modern platforms.
Yeah, just broadly conceptually, re-releasing these older titles onto modern platforms and PC, I'm all for that. And also, considering this game is titled Volume 1, I wonder if they already have a Volume 2 planned.
What do you want to see released? Makai Kingdom from them?
ZHP.
Oh yeah. Was it the Zettai Hero Project? Was that what it was?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, they have such a rich library that there's a no-brainer. I mean, why not? These older titles are so hard to like play right now that this is
Take notes, Square Enix.
Yeah. But it's not like these are like full blown out like the remaster is still faithful to the original look. It's not like crazy all new assets. They're kind of like upscaled, but like kind of clean up skills.
Panda Brave is actually kind of awkward looking. It takes a while to get used to because like the backgrounds are like upscaled, but the sprites are basically still the old sprites.
They're kind of still blurry. It doesn't mesh well, in my opinion.
Well, it sort of reminds me of like when they released Disgaea on PC. You can do the original sprites in Disgaea, but you can also do like a smoothing, blurring thing. And I personally don't really like that, but I don't know. I think no matter what you do, if you are trying to upscale a pixel game, it's going to get weird.
It's either going to mess with the backgrounds or be unfaithful.
Did they say release date for these?
Just summer, so
okay,
maybe not too far away. Now,
an interesting little bit of
needs
time
to re-release
capsule.
Disgaea 3.
An interesting bit of time capsule is like I go to the site and I click on Soul Nomad and I can see like the original announcements from like the 2007 release from back in 2006. Proto RPG site
the
days.
Soul Nomad website, the original website, is still up from NIS America, but it's based on Flash, so it's broken.
Are they both dual audio language releases?
I think originally they were.
I don't remember if they were.
NIS was kind of early on the ball for that in a lot of their games. I believe both of them were dual audio, even on PS2.
Okay.
Finally, from I believe just yesterday, during the Tales of Festival, the end of the day one of that festival, we finally got a pulse for the upcoming Tales of Arise, which was originally slated to release last year, was delayed to like a nebulous maybe this year setting. It's been in the header for the RPG site for the last 2 years. We finally got a new trailer for it. This trailer is a lot of like similar footage from what was shown at the announcement back in E3 2019 and TGS 2019 a few months later. But most notably, it does kind of give the first look at the voice acting for the two main characters, both in English and Japanese, Alphen, the protagonist, and Shion, the other protagonist. So I don't know. What do we think about this? We finally got to see Arise for the first time in like a year.
It seems like we'll probably have more info in the next few weeks because of the trademark leaked for like a thing called Bandai Namco Next, and like the rumors of Elden Ring information this month. It would make sense that those two would be bundled together in the same thing if that Bandai Namco Next thing is like a sort of like video presentation with details on upcoming games.
Yeah, I could see it being either that or being an Xbox like showcase, because Tales of Arise was announced at an Xbox event, and then there's stuff like Scarlet Nexus, which has basically only been shown at, well, mostly at Xbox things, but also a few other places, but it's kind of got that Xbox branding.
Wasn't
So
Elden
I
Ring
can see it.
Xbox?
Elden
branded?
Ring is also like Xbox kind
Yeah.
of the marketing
Yeah,
angle, if you will. It's coming to everything, just to be clear, but right.
Bamco
just- they're
seems to really like teaming up with Microsoft for marketing deals because they've been doing it for like almost 5 years now. I remember when they
DBZ
when they
Kakarot.
yeah, I remember DBZ Kakarot, Fighters Z,
Jump Force.
Jump Force,
Uh,
all sorts of things. But yeah, I probably later this month. So
All right, so well, let's say bets. Tales of Arise this year or nah?
I think it's either going to be late this year or early next year.
yeah, I think that's a safe bet.
It
Well,
kind of all depends on how much COVID kind of like knocked back their development time. Apparently, some developers have been struggling with it.
These
No.
people, man, I say this year or next year. They're like, it's probably
I'm going to say March of next year. I'm not going to equivocate and give myself a wide
March
March
Yeah,
next
sorry, we
year.
went
a
really
brave-
hard
Okay, then I'll just say it's going to be fall.
okay. So
next year. I'd say then if I had to push.
interesting. All right.
Bookmark it.
Okay. We'll pick fun of you if you're wrong. That's just the punishment of this. I think the one the one weird cool thing that I liked out of this Tales of Festival that just ended was they announced that this December in Japan they're gonna release a Blu-ray disc of all the
I heard
Tales
about this.
game openings, like the anime
That's
openings
cool.
that play. And it's like that's cool because you'll finally have like clean upscales or of whatnot of the old Tales games.
Ideally, the best versions of all of them.
I'm really hoping to like just order. I'm waiting for Amazon Japan to like get it up for pre-order. It's like gonna be like $80, but so you're basically paying like $80 for like what could be like YouTube videos. But
I mean, that's a lot of openings. How many Tales openings are there? Like 20?
7 or something. It's a lot. So
Wait,
By
how
the
many?
way,
I think it's
Tales of
That's a lot.
Arise is another game where the protagonist has no memories.
Oh,
Or
The protagonist
Elfin.
is also a
It's-
slave.
Yeah, he says the only thing he remembers is that he's a slave. Or was a slave? Is a slave. He says, the only thing
It's
I
been a
know
while
about
since we
myself
read the
is that,
premise.
that I'm a
We've been-
slave.
We've been
Yeah.
out of news for so long.
Literally 2 neighboring planets, and like one planet's enslaving the other planet.
hmm
okay. I'm like counting real fast right now. So it's 17 Tales game openings in that thing,
A lot.
and it's like 7,000 yen or something. I'm still stupid enough to want to buy it though. Like I really want clean versions of those old ass Tales openings because they're still confined to like really shitty quality.
Yeah, like you take the PS2 release and upscale it.
It's like
Poorly.
yep.
Mhm.
Like
But we'll
like,
get more news on our. Oh, sorry. I was going to start wrapping this up.
oh,
You guys are
yeah.
you guys are dwelling on these opening Blu-ray. Go ahead, talk about this opening Blu-ray. I guess I'm just not interested in it.
Ring a Bell is good.
it is. It is the I'm just saying like the first HD Tales game opening was like what Tales of Xillia or the Graces?
No, Vesperia had one.
Oh right, yeah.
Vesperia was that you were talking about that Persona song getting an English version. Vesperia was kind of nice. That game, Ring a Bell, has English and Japanese, like
That's
sung by the same person. I think Graces did too. It's kind of nice when they do that. Just have the same like bilingual singer sing it twice. That's nice.
Trying to think of like I think Bonnie Pink was the one who did Vesperia.
Mhm. Go on, keep talking about these openings. On this
I mean, we
Blu-ray.
could all day. We could all day if you really want.
My
us to.
hot take is that I prefer the instrumental American opening to Symphonia over either of the Japanese soundtracks. I just like it because it's like a bespoke scored track for the English opening rather than like what Abyss does, which is terrible and takes the Japanese lyrics and just replaces them with guitar, and it honestly sucks, especially when it's Karma.
Yeah.
God.
Oh, good.
Because in Symphonia, especially the one that they use in the remaster, it just feels like an AMV. Like here's a recent Japanese pop song that we're just going to overlay on this existing footage, and it sort of kind of fits and sort of doesn't.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite of the three for Symphonia.
I think by and large, you can never really go wrong with the original version of a Tales of opening. So what they replaced it with is always like a 50-50. Maybe it'll work.
I was actually surprised that like because I believe both of the Xillia games, they were able to license Japanese opening. I might be wrong.
I think they did. I think they did use it for the.
But then Zestiria, I know for sure, did not. So it went back to like replacing it with guitar, and it's just kind of like, God, this is terrible.
Actually, a really cool opening too in Japanese. Like I really enjoyed the song in Japanese, despite Zestiria being like a game.
Zestiria is the worst one. That's my opinion.
So there was. So this is actually the first. Like, it's hard to imagine that Bizarro was what, like 4 years ago at this point, approaching 5.
2017, 2016, Japan.
Yeah, and like that's a PS3 game at heart. So this is not. This is a PS4 game at heart. It's still slated for PC, PS4, Xbox One. So
it's technically the first Tales game developed for like the last gen of consoles.
The first last gen Tales game.
Amazing. Just weird to think that Tales technically skipped an entire console generation.
Pretty much. Well, I mean, it will happen until this releases, and then this is kind of going to be a nebulous mode where a lot of people will just be putting it into their PS5s or whatever.
That's bold of you to say that everyone will, like a lot of people have PS5s by the time this is released.
Oh, but by next March, I hope so. That's when it's releasing, right? All right, so moving on, we do have a bunch of other stuff that came out, which mostly boils down to like release dates announcements. So we're finally like peppering in the spring and summer months with stuff that we knew was coming, though we're now just nailing down dates on the calendar. So let's just rock it through this and see what we think. First up, Trails of Cold Steel 4 is launching for PC on April 9th, which I have listed here is the same as the Switch date. Is that correct?
Yep.
So it was weird that it wasn't announced alongside the Switch version. Maybe it was still a bit up in the air. But yes, it will be releasing on Switch and PC on April 9th. And I do know that someone that the porting studio, Durante's, what is it, PH3?
Yeah.
They did mention that it'll have the same suite of features and upgrades as the Cold Steel 3 PC version. So it should be in good hands, or it is in good hands for that. I guess a lot of us have played Cold Steel 4 when it first released last year on console or on PlayStation. So I'm eager to kind of follow up on that.
Good luck.
In a month.
I'm ready to experience. I'm not really high on any of the Cold Steel games, to be honest. So I'm kind of like, I'm ready to experience this supposed train wreck. Sorry.
I can't wait for both of your experiences. You guys.
I'm trying to go in with an open mind, but it's honestly going to be really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I hate being so negative about that game, but I can just tell you from the types of gamers that you are and what you value in an RPG.
Yeah.
Especially Adam, I don't foresee you liking it.
I mean, I'm already pretty down on Cold Steel 3, to be honest. So it's just like, oh boy, this is the one, and that's the one people like. So.
All right, Cold Steel 4, April 9th. We won't bag on it much longer. Also coming out for Switch in April, on the 27th, we're getting a port for Death End Request, which is the Idea Factory game that originally released in 2018, 2019 in the West. It does have a sequel that also released, but this is a port of the first game coming to Switch. Kind of a surprise. I don't know if anyone really expected this.
It was announced for Japan a couple months ago. So,
it's not too shocking because they've already ported the engine that the game runs on to Switch, which is Orochi. Hopefully the port is better than some of the Idea Factory's other games, but as we already talked about, it's more like a visual novel. So it's like, just put it on the easiest settings, grin and bear it, and then just be in it first.
Play it in spite of the gameplay.
James, I didn't realize James reviewed this back in 2019 originally.
I get visual hectic though during battles, so it's gonna be interesting to see how that performs. But it does get like kind of crazy during battles.
Oh, I see. Chow actually reviewed it in February, and then James in May, twice in 2019. So now we have a Switch version. Who's up?
George.
No.
Come on, George. You haven't done an Idea Factory title yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to jump
into
the one game that people seem to be really split on in the series I've never played. That just doesn't sound.
That's a prerequisite. Okay, fine, George. If you don't review this, you have to review the next one for sure because we know you have a PS5.
Damn it. Fine.
By the way, this will be a $39.99 digital release. It will have limited retail availability, either through like the official website or through limited run games. So there's that. Any other comments on Death's End Request Switch port? Otherwise, we'll move on.
I'm ready to George's next assignment.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Trails of Cold Steel 4 then. That's why I was bashing it really bad then.
Well, when you said like a not well received entry of a series you haven't played, that's kind of general.
I think Death End Request, people generally like James say like the story stuff, if you like the Corpse Party games, and is worth playing, but the gameplay stuff is just not so much.
Oh man, yeah, I apologize to Death End fans right there. For Trails to burn.
I would warn you though, George, if you do actually end up playing it, it is very incredibly dark. You're probably not too familiar with the Corpse Party series, but it doesn't hold back. It gets really brutal.
I think we've taken this joke too far. I don't think George has any interest in this.
we've already assumed that George is gonna.
We need to compare it to Kingdom Hearts. How is this like Kingdom Hearts? What's the darkest Kingdom Hearts moment?
Oof.
Goofy dies.
Truthfully, it'd be Shion dying, but then it's kind of ruined. He's like, "Who else will I have ice cream with?" I'm like, "Okay, yeah, she's dead." And...
I thought the fucking Donald Zeta flaring that darkest moment. But...
There we go. You thought we were free of Neptunia? Not quite. So Neptunia Reverse, which is the English version of Go Go Go, if I remember right,
which
is releasing on June 8th for PlayStation 5, June 11th in Europe. So
I love how the Japanese naming scheme was literally putting it into example that it's the 5th time they're releasing the same version of this game.
Yep.
So yeah,
let me see if I can chronicle this. The original Hyperdimension Neptunia released on PlayStation 3.
Okay.
It then got a Vita remake, pretty much a redo overall, and that was the Rebirth game. And then that got a PC port, which I believe was the same, just like the same as the Vita game, but on PC. Then that got a PS4 port that added a few new things, but never released in English. And then that PS4 port is getting ported to PS5 with even more new things.
They backported
the changes from the PS4 version into the PC version. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it went.
So it went from PC to PS4 and then kind of back to PC. Okay.
And yeah, so that it was Hyperdimension Neptunia for the PS3, then Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1 for the Vita, then Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1 still for the re-release on PC, then Rebirth 1 Plus for the PS4.
And backported to PC.
I wasn't a separate release, it was I think it was like DLC or something, or a free update. I honestly forgot. So it wasn't like its own separate product on PC. And now you have this game, which is Hyperdimension Neptunia Reverse, which is there is the same game in it, but then there's a separate game mode that allows you to just unlock all the 27 characters in it off the bat, and it's rebalanced and has a few new things in it, like fishing, and
it's finally a JRPG.
Yeah, and I don't know, dude.
Even though I don't really care about the series, I actually kind of like how they include it's almost like it feels like a randomizer or some sort of mod where it's just we have a version of this game now. You can play as any character at any time in the game. Story be damned, just play who you want to play as, just at any point, even if it doesn't make sense.
And this Neptunia Reverse is a true PlayStation 5 exclusive. It's only for PlayStation 5,
right?
So, and it's
coming out in June.
It still looks like shit.
It's a Vita game.
I want to see a kaleidoscope that shows a 4x4 grid of all the different versions of this game, just in comparison.
Ugh. Just have the same images from each version lined up together. It's all right, name me each where all these games came from. It's the same screenshot from each version.
Another release date announced during the New Game Plus stream. Alchemic Cutie is launching first for Xbox One and Xbox Series on July 27th. It is also set to release for Switch and PC, but those dates haven't been set yet. This was originally announced a few years ago at this point in 2018.
This
Yeah.
is one of those indie games that like it was originally like unveiled. Like a lot of indie games aren't really like formally announced. Just the developer just says like, "Hey, I'm working on this game now." Like
Yeah.
as far back as 2017, and then I believe in 2018, Circle Entertainment said they're going to publish it for Switch and PC, and then it just sort of went silent for a while, and like it was just kind of in the works. It's an indie game; sometimes those take a while. And then now PM Studios kind of announced that they're releasing it on Xbox, and like I guess Circle is still doing the PC and Switch ports later, maybe. Indie games are sometimes just that's the reality of developing a game is sometimes when you're a small like 2-person studio, I think this game is, they're just going to release on one platform, then the next when they get around to it.
This is an interesting like premise though, because it seems like a mix between like Slime Rancher and like Atelier. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's
And
like a
it's
pixel
got like a
art
top-
slime laser. Yep.
It looks kind of like visually, it looks like maybe like Stardew Valley or maybe like a top-down Zelda game, but it's got like that bubblegummy art style, top-down, very relaxing sort of premise. Seasons change, and you like explore around this island, and you collect these little things called
Slimes.
jellies. Yeah, so it seems like very much like a very low-key, gentle sort of game. Which hell, we already talked about games that just get needlessly dark. Let's go to the opposite. Alchemic Cutie. It's even in the name. Coming first to Xbox, oddly enough, in July, with the other 2 versions still on the docket for some point at some time. We got a release date also for Disgaea 6. I thought I had this in order, but I guess I don't. This is another June release. So Disgaea 6, Defiance of Destiny, is launching for Nintendo Switch on June 29th. We've covered this game a few times on Tetracast, talking about its move to like a 3D art style, how it has oddly the Japanese PlayStation release that isn't being localized. So now we just have a release date for the English version. It released in Japan in January this year.
And apparently, the PlayStation 4 version runs considerably better than the Switch version, or I should maybe say noticeably better. So it's kind of weird how we're not getting that one. Like, okay.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe it's a time exclusivity or something over here in the West. Who knows? I really want to see this running better.
I will say that one of the major reasons why people seem to be so down on the Switch version's performance is that for whatever reason, the demo defaulted to like a 20 FPS resolution mode. And there's an actual like performance mode you can set in the options that makes the frame rate a lot smoother, though the resolution is lower.
Yeah, but it looks blurry or great. This message was delivered by Nikawa, the president of Nippon Ichi Software, and throughout that message, he did mention they didn't confirm that they're developing like Disgaea 7, but he did mention that like whatever feedback they get from this game, they might incorporate into whenever they start development of Disgaea 7. So
it's literally when, not if.
Yeah.
On one hand, it's not too surprising that their flagship series isn't going to end at 6, but on the other hand, NAS has had some like turbulent years, so it's kind of like not the worst thing to hear that they're planning on a Disgaea 7. So,
well, I mean, one thing I will say is that I haven't played Disgaea 6 yet, but there is somebody I follow on Twitter that has played through Disgaea 6, and it doesn't sound super hot. It sounds like, well, first off, in their like Twitter thread about it, they mentioned how you can literally auto battle through the entire game.
Hell yeah, that sounds like my kind of game.
Who needs gameplay?
All right.
Yeah, and then Nikawa had a Reddit AMA on r/games, and he outright said in one of his responses that, yeah, that was a deliberate design decision.
Wait, what?
I mean, I sort of understand story modes in games, like if you people who want to experience a story and just kind of breeze through combat. Yeah, it's
that's weird.
Also, for a strategy game, it's kind of weird. Like
it's just
game, I don't know.
You're right. Let's put that auto battle into Project Triangle strategy. I don't want to try to think throughout these games. Come on now.
I mean, the next Fire Emblem game will have just a story mode. Just skip the battles.
I mean, they went all they were like halfway there with the most recent one. You could like you can do it. You can have like auto battle along with like the easiest difficulty. So I wonder if you could beat all the stages like that.
If I ever get around to this game, I'll just try that. Just literally just at the beginning of each level, just click auto battle and see what happens.
See how far it lets you get.
All right, this guy is sounding like a very game journalist friendly game. You don't even have to play the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Game journalists cannot play these things. I'm still waiting on Disgaea 3. Come on, niece. Put it on PC.
It's the only one that's not on PC now, which is weird.
Yep.
I still need to finish 4.
I forgot 4 came to PC.
But at least it's not like there's one of the Disgaea games on PC that actually like has a native Linux version. I think it's 2, and I think it's the only one. Like, let me check.
I also think it's weird that Disgaea 4 is on Game Pass for PC. It's just weird. Like, it's technically on Xbox, kinda.
Okay, so yeah, Disgaea 1 PC is on Windows, and Disgaea 2, I believe it's Disgaea 2 that had the Linux version for whatever reason.
Those are the only. Okay.
Yeah, Disgaea 2 is the only Disgaea game on both Mac and Linux. It's weird.
Why not?
I'm just curious.
Disgaea
I'm going
2
to
is
my
very
Xbox
average.
Game Pass app and I'm typing in Disgaea, and yeah, there it is. Disgaea 4 complete. Game Pass.
Yep.
I can install it right now if I wanted to.
It's very weird.
Doesn't have auto battle, so it can't be a good one.
Yeah, it's too hard for me. Finally, we do have a release window for another incoming, very niche RPG, Mary Skelter Finale, which is the last of the trio of the Mary Skelter games following Mary Skelter Nightmares and Mary Skelter 2. Will be releasing on PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch this fall. It did release last year in
It's actually a
Japan.
new localization announcement. So
It's a new announcement, and yeah, okay. So it is being localized, coming out this fall. It released last year in Japan in November. It's the third game in the trilogy.
This
Has
is a
anyone
weird
played the first
one.
two?
Did Mary Skelter 2 ever come out on PS4?
No,
in
it
the
did
West?
not.
So this is
One thing I've heard through the grapevine is it seems like Sony's actually relaxing those like policy changes they made, so that might be the reason it's coming over.
But
my guess is that if they wanted to release Mary Skelter 2 on PS4, they probably would have to, I'm going to say this, censor it a bit, just to release it. And Idea Factory basically just said, no, we're just not going to release it. Sorry.
Yeah, like this feels, because Mary Skelter Nightmares is available on PC in the West. I don't know if it's on PS4 as well. I honestly forgot.
Mary Skelter Nightmares was on Vita. But there's no reason to get the original now because Mary Skelter 2 is like the Cydia Duodecim situation where it also includes a revamped version of the original game.
So that's the weird thing about that version is you need to beat Mary Skelter 2, I believe, to unlock the first game.
Well, that was the same deal with the Cydia Duodecim because it was literally a prologue and then you had the original game.
But you need to have to get the whole understand Mary Skelter 2. I heard you need to have played the first one.
So I believe it does like a prequel sequel sort of deal where it's sort of like
people have, so from what I gather, every time we talk about the series, this is what I've gathered. You need to have played the first one, then play the second one, then play the updated first one on the second one to understand everything, and then that's how and then Mary Skelter Finale after those.
That is weird. So I guess that means that if I ever want to get into the series, I should actually play the Vita version I own.
So I have two comments. One, Mary Skelter Finale, which is the new version, does include like visual novel sort of versions of the first two games. So it's sort of like, hey, if you want to start with this one, you can, if you just kind of catch up in this sort of truncated way. So that's included. It's not like the game included. It's just like a visual novel version of it or something like that. And two, the other thing I wanted to say was the first Mary Skelter game did get a late PC port. It was actually ported by Ghostlight, who's done a few of these sort of Idea Factory ports.
They also did Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus, I think.
Yeah, and a few others. They've been teasing a JRPG for a while, and a lot of people sort of assumed it was Mary Skelter 2, because that would just sort of make sense for what they could be working on and would see a PC release, but they haven't announced it yet. And Mary Skelter Finale does not have a PC release. So right now, first game is the only one on PC.
I would I hear good things about it. I would like to play them, but they seem so convoluted to play because right now it's be like PC 1, Switch for 2 Switch, and then the updated one.
How long are these
the
games
2 on
anyways?
Switch.
I'm going to check on how long to beat.
And
Because
then now it's like this one's on PS4 and Switch at least. I don't know.
I mentioned earlier that I'm a fan of dungeon crawlers, but just being honest, these games are just a little bit too skeevy for me. Just or too much. That's just sorry.
Okay, well, at least going by how long to beat, like I can probably play 1 and 2 in the same amount of time that it took me to play Labyrinth of Yomi.
Yep. Few other footnotes from this week. We got a PSVR announcement for a virtual reality MMORPG, Zenith, which had already had an announced PC release, and it's like a Steam page and a discussion forum on that. It's coming to PSVR. I don't really know anything else about this.
I'm not really into virtual reality.
It's just one of those things that like even Alex, our boss, like put up the news post on the site, and I guess we're hoping. I guess everyone's hoping for some sort of breakthrough with VR, especially the VR MMO space.
SAO.
The
requisite SAO.
Yeah, I in the press release for this, they say that like you kind of customize classes to fit your playstyle. They're not tied to specific roles. So if you want like a DPS character to heal, you can make it like that, or you can have like the mages do a melee build for some reason, but it's kind of free form in that manner. And see, hopefully it does well. About people are waiting. I guess that's one of like the allure of the promise of VR in your head is like, oh, you can have like these cool experiences, but no one has really broken through yet, as far as I know.
I'm interested in VR, but like I last really had my hands on it in like 2016 era. This was like when the HTC Vive was like the big VR headset. This is before like the Valve Index or like the Oculus really took off. And at the time, I just thought it felt very like carnival-y. Like here's Farpoint, which is one of the big, I think that's what it was called, one of the big PSVR launch games. And it just felt like very like on rails shooter. Gee whiz, this is VR, isn't it cool? So I want to see it like evolve past that stage, which maybe it already has with something like Half-Life Alyx. Like if I was into the Half-Life series, that's definitely a game that felt like it really was like that. Here is a big budget, quote unquote, real, true video game beyond just the fact that it's a VR gimmick. Like it's truly like built from the ground up to be experienced in this manner.
I'm really interested in what Sony's next gen VR thing is going to shape up to be now that they're not tied to like the PS Move controllers,
right?
And they can actually tailor it for like the specs of the PS5.
As someone who bought a PSVR maybe a month before they said, yeah, we're not making any more PSVR games, I'm probably a bit salty about it. I won't pick up a PSVR 2 for a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Like that sucks, dude. Like especially like picking it up so a month before they say that. But I obviously the software library is what'll make or break this whole proposition for me. Is I need to see the cool experiences. Like I think if I were to get like any VR headset right now, I think my go-to would be Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd probably get a Valve Index, even though it has a higher price tag, just because Valve has shown like they are serious about this with the fact that they released the headset and then like a premium game like was free along with it. Like they really wanted people to play through Half-Life Alyx with their Valve headset. And then by the way, the Zenith game supports Oculus Rift, HTC, Valve, PS4 and PS5 through the original PSVR, and then seemingly likely that whatever follows PSVR will be supported as well.
It also those in good optics too on Sony early on before they announced their next gen VR announcements. Like, oh yeah, if you want to use your PSVR with the PS5, you can just get this VR adapter from us for free. But I mean, they're very sketchy about it, and also there are some like experiences like Hitman VR that are just tied inherently to the PS4. As far as I know, you can't do like PS5 to that, which sucks.
No, you have to like download a separate version. I think you get like a pass for it. I don't know. I didn't look into it too much. I could do this, or I could just not.
A few tiny other things just to wrap this thing up. We did get some information about the newest upcoming entry in the Kiseki/Trails series, Legend of Heroes Kuro no Kiseki from Famitsu magazine. And maybe Josh can speak to a little bit what was shown here. Mostly it focuses on the change to a more action-focused combat system.
Yeah, Falcom has been talking around like, the new iteration of their battle system with Kuro no Kiseki, moving to a more action RPG. So Famitsu really laid out, got a first like good look at what this is like shaping up to be. With you're actively dodging and attacking. The circle has been assigned to attack, and then X to evade and whatnot, and you can like pull up like a tactics menu in the middle of battle and switch characters in the middle of battle and whatnot. What really surprised me, and I didn't think they were going to do this, was they're actually keeping in the command battle system as well, where you can switch between action RPG or the traditional turn-based at any time. So they're designing two battle systems in Kuro no Kiseki, because it feels like they're very hesitant and iffy on committing to an action battle system. So I guess they're kind of, you can imagine from their point of view, a lot of the future of Trails combat is going to ride on whether people warm up to what they envision an action RPG to be in the Trails verse versus just sticking with the command battle system and whatnot.
Honestly, I'm up for this just because it's been like literally like 9 games with kind of the same battle system. I mean, they do tweak it here and there a little bit, from Trails in the Sky to Trails of or Hajimari even. I guess that's 10 games, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so I'm fine. It's like, let's just try something new. I've seen some people compare it to Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I don't know if that's just because it's the hot thing. But
yeah, I'm not too sure.
I'm up for just mixing it up.
I need to see this in motion to get a better look at it. I'm not like, I hope, I'm fine with them mixing it up, and I really welcome it. Something really rubs me the wrong way of them not going all the way and devoting resources to both battle systems, which is like just one or the other. Like, I would like to see, because this is gonna feel really bad if this game comes out and both battle systems feel half-baked or half-assed, because
and then like the next game they like go back to the
it's like, oh, this wasn't received well. It's like, I would rather they go like the Yakuza route of just committing wholesale into a new battle system. Imagine if Yakuza Like a Dragon came out. It's like, oh, you can do it turn-based, but you can go back to the old beat-em-up brawler way, just in case you don't like it. And it's like,
yeah,
okay,
it feels very like cautious.
Yeah, it's like, I can understand to a certain extent, but there a lot of they kind of lay out new systems as well, but they're not really explained in depth. Like, we don't know what this new boost or system is like, or what this SCLM system is like in this game. I would like to see a trailer of this game in motion to get a better feel about it. But everything they have showed up about Kuro no Kiseki up at this point, sounds promising on paper.
It looks different. The party composition already, just even if they end up like a clusterfuck route where you have way too many characters on screen, at least the main party is older. And they're not students. And it looks like it's going to be a little bit more mature, at least.
I'm up for that.
That's a big upgrade on its own.
Yeah. So we'll see. This seems the biggest step in the series gameplay wise for a while. But
in the West, we have to wait a bit, and we still have to get Hajimari first.
Yeah.
So it'll be a while.
I think I don't know. I don't know if I should feel bummed out or not that they feel so. They're not confident in like what they want it to be.
Well, they literally have like kind of stuck to a routine for like almost a decade. Like, when did the first Trails of Cold Steel come out? Like 2012 in Japan? It's been a while.
2013, I want to say, and Cold Steel 2 was 2014.
So like they've been so in the routine. I guess I don't blame them for being a little bit cautious, but it's just kind of like, come on, guys, just try something new.
Yeah.
Like,
take a shot.
Few other notes here that I think other podcast contributors threw up on our little outline here. Josh, tell me about Hideo Baba and where in the world is he?
Yeah, so this has been this is actually kind of like breaking news. Earlier this morning, this has been trending around Japan. There's this YouTube game reporter, Nakaido. He has a leaker within the Lightworks studio. The Lightworks is the studio behind such things like Fate Grand Order and now recently Sakura Kakumei. And it seems like that Hideo Baba has been off the map for a while, because as you remember, after he departed from Namco Bandai, he went over to Square Enix for a little bit to establish Studio Estolia for this Project Prelude Rune RPG for Square Enix, and that was canceled a few years back and whatnot. So we're like, okay, where's Hideo Baba? And a lot of people may know Hideo Baba from his works in the Tales of franchise. A lot of his lasting legacy or the lasting thought of Baba wasn't great because he's kind of the head behind Tales of Hysteria and whatnot, and we all know
which I said is the worst one.
Yeah, Tales of Hysteria, not great. So the people have uncovered that Hideo Baba is supposedly now at the Lightworks as the producer or the co-producer of Sakura Kakumei. And this was already weird because when Sakura Kakumei was unveiled, it was very uncharacteristic of them that they were very coy about unveiling the side producer for this game. Like they didn't list it. They only listed, the Sega producer and the creative director and whatnot. It's like, okay, why would you not tell us like the producer of the Lightworks for the Lightworks game? It's like, okay, I guess. So it's been revealed that he's been there, and like the expectation for Sakura Kakumei internally, supposedly in the Lightworks, was for this project to do as well as Fate Grand Order moving forward. And that's even if you don't know anything about Fate Grand Order, it's very big, and to expect it to perform as well as that is insane, because the monthly development budget for Sakura Kakumei is 600 million yen or 5 million USD, and if that game doesn't hit that revenue monthly, supposedly like the expectations for it's not doing as well as it should be, and that's insane to like expect for a brand new game to do off the bat. Even
Fate Grand Order game, like even just hearing it from very broadly from the grapevine, I know it's basically funding like Sony Aniplex. Like it's like a huge chunk of their revenue.
Yeah, so that they're writing on that over there. So and then I can't imagine like they're just kind of banking on like the Sakura Wars IP being popular in Japan to hopefully carry this. Like this game has not been obviously performing as well as they hope, because at the moment, Sakura Kakumei only hits like 100 million a month, or like a sixth of what they wanted to do, and like even though it's still like early, it still hits like 300 million on like a good event, like month, like with a good event or whatnot. So obviously the upfront budget for this game has been crazy.
Assuming everything that you were saying, which is laying this YouTuber, is accurate, it seems just like Sakura Wars, even in Japan before the new game, was like a dormant franchise for a decade, and now it has a new game and like an anime tied with that. That's still not enough to like expect it to do as well as Fate Grand Order, which has like 6 different animes in the last 10 years or something like that. And several games. Like how can you compete with that? I don't know. That seems kind of bonkers.
Yeah, so obviously this is the hubbub right now that's been like overtaking like the Japan video game industry, like what they're talking about at the moment, and kind of just like just put in perspective like where Hideo Baba is at, and it's not necessarily like love him or hate him. Baba is just, it's been interesting to see where this guy has been going, and it's not necessarily like what he's doing is a good or bad thing, but like the sales expectations and the financial expectation for Sakura Kakumei, no matter how the game is doing, to expect it to do as literally like the biggest thing right now in like the mobile game industry, like one of the big juggernauts, is like, that's insane. That's ludicrous. So
the thing about Baba, which is kind of like interesting to me, is like he was at Bandai Namco in charge of Tales for quite a while. It's a little bit fuzzy when exactly he became like the director or brand manager, but it was at least at the Tales of Destiny 2 remake. And Tales of Destiny, the Tales of Symphonia sequel, Tales of Vesperia, Tales of Graces, Tales of Xillia, and a couple other games also mixed in with there like Eternal Sonata. He was kind of a lead on all of that. So quality of games aside, he was at least seemingly able to produce and push out games to market and get sales. So like he seemed like he was, relatively successful in making games and getting them out. So it's kind of weird how he just sort of like after Hysteria just hasn't really done much of anything.
Yeah, especially like at his brief time with Square Enix to be to make like the next big thing, like for
Mhm.
even like made a new studio over there, and that didn't peter out. And it's just like this was his next
Yeah.
fallback, and like this next thing for him not looking really great either. Like this hasn't been as far as I know, hasn't really done much
Mhm.
over in Japan. Even if it's a Sakura Wars thing, this is not what Sakura Wars fans want, clearly. So,
Did you play the mobile game?
I did play the mobile game for a few weeks, months. But
Did you give up on it?
Yeah, I'm done with it now. Just it's boring to me. I didn't really like. It has a cool story and cool characters, but I didn't really care for the gameplay and the grind for it. So
Just curious, which game have you stuck with? Is it mostly Dragalia, or did you give up on that too?
I gave up on Dragalia. The one that I've stuck with is right now is the Princess Connect Redive, the English version of that.
All right, that came out a couple months ago.
Yeah, like
Okay.
I'm like if we have like a guild over or a clan over at the RPG site Discord, that like we get together and do stuff in it, and people generally like it, and it's been okay.
I asked because I know you basically try. It feels like every single one. So I was just curious, which one have you kind of tried and actually stuck with recently?
Yeah,
so okay,
I give mobile games a fair shake for better or worse. See how where that space is going, because obviously not a lot of people keep up on that, and I like being somewhat in the know in that space. I also keep I'm still playing this Blaze Blue alternative as well. It's not
that one just seemed to come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's still not awful. People don't really like it. I don't think it's performing very well, but for some reason it's like it's not bad. It's not great, but it's okay. It's kind of like
worse.
It's like how we depict the Tales of games here. It's kind of like junk food.
Yep.
One final note here, and this is one for George, I think. We did get a developer of Disco Elysium for consoles in the game's official Discord channel reiterate that Disco Elysium, the final cut, which is like the re-release that includes all the new voiceover and all that, is still slated to land this month in March at some point.
Yeah, that's it's the only game at the moment that I'm really like. I wake up every day and I'm like, man, I hope they've announced a release date for that. And the further we get into March, the more I'm like, is this happening this month? And they've said, I think it must have been 2 days ago now. They said, yeah, it's still ready for March. So if you're as excited as I am, then let's go.
It's okay, George. At the time of this recording, we're only 6 days into March. There's still a lot of March left. Fortunately,
it feels like forever. It's like last year all over again. You just need that Disco Elysium at the end of the road to get excited for.
They'll be like, it's coming out at March 31st, 12:59.
I could see that happening. It will be like, we said it's March, but might as well be April.
It'd be like the last minute of the last time zone.
Oh god,
Disco Elysium is good.
Yes, absolutely.
It was actually.
Can't wait to finally play it now that it's getting the definitive version.
I feel like it's a type of game. It's not like a lot of other RPGs. So maybe like that first hour or so, it might be a little bit of a, an acclimation period. But like the writing kind of hooks you. It's really well written. Where you just it's the sort of writing, and maybe Brian can back me up on this, where you just sort of want to just keep reading it. It's really engaging.
I hope it has auto battle this time.
It has no battle.
It has like one battle that it's
really just a dialogue. Is all it is.
There's a battle to get your tie.
Yes.
Yeah.
From the ceiling fan.
You can get a game over in the first like.
I am curious to see George's response to it, because it doesn't feel like a George game at all. But it's putting George in a box. So George, break out of the box.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like I don't know why I've put it on a pedestal. Almost, I'm literally like, yeah, this will be my game of the year. I've just got that feeling.
George buying the cap with the communist symbolry. maybe he'll play the game and come out an actual communist.
George is literally like George is like I'm the biggest Disco Elysium fan, and I'm excited to play it for the first time.
I can't ham-fisted, hackneyed comparisons to Kingdom Hearts in some way.
Oh man, that reminded me of the meme where it's like
Earthbound fans excited to play it for the first time.
No, there's another one. It's like reviewer excited to finally play the game. They've just put 40 hours into reviewing or something like that. And I laugh. I was like, it's like shockingly true. It's like, yeah.
Well, I think that wraps up all the topics for this week. So a lot of release dates, a lot of release windows, some niche games, some RPGs coming to Switch. It seems like was the focus of this cast, with, of course, PlayStation 4 and PC always there. A few Xbox releases like Alchemic Cutie. So we'll start wrapping this up. Obviously, we're here every week for the Tetracast. You can find this on Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and iTunes. You can obviously visit us on our website at rpgsite.net, where we've got all of the stories that we talked about here today, including the Neptunia review from Josh. Thank you, Josh.
Do what I do.
We've got a Discord link at the top of our homepage where you can go to the Discord and talk about Princess Connect Redive or Monster Hunter or whatever you want in our channel. You can always visit us on YouTube at rpgsite.net, on Twitter at rpgsite. And other than that, stay safe, take care, and you'll hear from us next week.
Later, everyone.
Don't sleep on Gnosia, folks.